as we get 4 more years of escapism for some. Oh yeah, let me hit my inner button. Oh shit, didn't mean to hit that. Oh shit, wrong button. As always, I think I'm gonna start tonight with the announcements, the new stuff coming in, do that breakdown. I'll explain it at the end during the readings. Oh yeah, tonight we doing readings at the end of the lecture, so stay tuned for that. Divine, blessed be to your day. May have been everything that you required to get everything you desired. The challenge of get everything all circulated in. Got a Palo Santo burning. We in the space of our growth, our love, that abundance to ourselves. Every instinct, every intuition, every bit of your power, all of your power, all of your energy, everything that you've ever needed is literally within you. Using energy and motion in a balanced state is going to be that key to unlocking the quantum powers of your shadow self. This requires breaking the pragmatic programming of spells that leaves us in that myopic state of mind, that short-term approach of existing. We literally got forever. You got one or two. It used to be evolve or repeat. After this week, as we're doing these announcements, as everybody's filling in, after this week of the consultations I've done in this week, it's becoming more and more apparent to me. And that's what led to me to come into this space. It's more and more apparent to me. Imagine a mindset of you can never get ahead. You'll never get anywhere if you're using the old floorboards of that old house, the old floorboards of your old house. Imagine being in your old house, wherever the trauma happened, wherever event that happened in your life. Imagine taking those floorboards. Imagine trying to build your space by removing those floorboards to build your space where you want to be at. This is what I think about when I think of, this is what comes to my mind and has been coming to my mind for a while when it comes to actually building anything, building things for yourself based on not being in the biases or using the same pragmatic mindset. Being in the pragmatic mindset is when you base your entire self off of, you're still stuck within the beliefs or the system that brought you to that space. The system being the trauma, the belief being based upon that trauma, that anger that you got in your heart about something, and not understanding the underlying pattern within that space. Because in truth, think about this, the family tree that you fell from, no matter how big, no matter how great you thought that tree was, the tree that you fell from in this space is not meant for you to go back up on. I can't be an apple, a mango, papaya. I'm thinking about exotic fruits because I've been eating exotic fruits all week. You can't go back on that tree. I don't care how many times you try. Once the apple falls off the tree, you can't put it back on that tree. This is what I think about when most people come into their space of becoming or being conscious, being aware. Being conscious simply means being aware that you are asleep, being aware that you've been in a sleep-like state. Everything that we're seeing, everything that we've been seeing is in play as it needs to be in play. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. One of the easiest examples I can use is, for some of us, we don't know about the disco era, but think about the disco era in music. Disco was a state of music to where motherfuckers was just, fuck it, we're high. We like lights. Fuck it, we're high. That's the state of where we're in right now. Everything's basically disco. Nobody wants to admit that they like disco or fuck with disco. But that's the state of mind that a lot of this shit is in. When it comes to building your legacy, when it comes to building your space, bringing yourself into your higher self, it's not going to be based on anything that you have done already before in the aspects of you building on that old narrative. We have been trained in this pragmatic approach to think of longevity, but I believe longevity is under the definition of the short term. A lot of times longevity is built under the short term mindset. That means we don't look at the cycle. Well, think about something being longer than it is when the whole cycle is 11 is 1 through 9. Beginning of a cycle is 1, end of a cycle is 9. Everything broken down between 1 and 9. Alchemy, the ethers is the 9. That's the new creation aspect. 8 is the aspects of that. That's the alchemist aspect. 7 is the number that's going to be based on the creation. 6 is going to be that number based on the sitting in that still space, coming into that new energy. But when we use the pragmatic approach, we use the approach of short-term thought to get this idea into our mind like, yo, I'm going to be doing it like this. We never really build beyond. You can't build anything long-term because we don't have this understanding in the aspects of the synonymous, or everything's in that continuum. The past, the present, and the future are always in the same continuum. My mind is based into the past if I've not dealt with the traumas. Therefore, my heart cannot flow in the state of the now. Therefore, my sole purpose is always going to be in the future. I'll always put it off until another day. That's the aspect I'm always trying to put. That's the procrastination program. Breaking these aspects of understanding that my mind, the memories within my subconscious, if they're rooted within the past, that means my heart will always flow from a state within the past. That means my emotions, the energy that I keep in motion, my instincts, my intuition, my gut feelings, all of these things are always in play, down to your personality, down to the true aspects of the authority of the authentic personality that is you. It's always been there, period. It's always been there. You have to remove the filters. We have to remove those filters. Here's how we're understanding how to remove them filters. If my intuition tells me to not trust somebody or not open up to somebody, the only way that I can become aware and not use that as an escape is by me sitting in a space with myself of like, what is triggering my distrust about this person? Now we know some people aren't shit. That's here, there, everywhere. That's the polarity. But why do you keep having the same stream of connections to people that aren't shit? Why do you keep getting the same stream? Why do you keep having the same streams of not being able to trust individuals? Why do we keep coming into the same space of constantly feeling downtrodden, used, struggling, oppression, somebody trying to attack me, someone trying to kill us, all of this shit? Why do we seem to keep cycling back to that same fucking spot? It's that state of pragmatic that you're in. My whole day is foreplay. Once you have unified every aspect that you have, understand that law of gender is not based on this men and women, it's based on the masculine and the feminine aspect. Exactly. That's the answer. That's the great answer. My whole day is foreplay. Whole day up till whenever I'm about to do something is always foreplay for me. Because I have a higher understanding of the aspect of, I'm married to myself. As of August 16th, 2020, I married myself. March 16th of 2020, that was the engagement. That was my engagement to Papa Lucifer. Papa and Lucifer got together. We got together. We married now. That was the engagement between the first engagement gift that I gave to myself was in my environment and named and defined was Godico Alchemist LLC.com for all of my services and everything that I do. Before that, the pre-wedding gifts, the pre-engagement gift or the ring that I gave to myself, Godico Alchemist, the YouTube channel, God Hour podcast. Those are the gifts that I gifted to myself. I am deserving of everything that I set myself to. You are deserving of everything that you desire. The first step to getting to what you deserve is acknowledging that shadow, acknowledging those internal workings. Johnny Mac just said it, defining those past experiences beyond those aspects of the traumatic or those traumas, defining that. You can't be deserving. You cannot understand what you're deserving of or state what you're deserving of or put value into what you're deserving of until you define those very traumatic experiences outside of the trauma. Let go of the emotion. I made a couple posts this week. One of the posts that I put was, loving your enemy is embracing your shadow self. Do not covet thy neighbor's goods is do not put more energy into the aspects of another person's shit, what they're going through. Every time that you sit there and the biggest thing that we like to covet is, and we covet it under this guise of, I want to save my people and I want to save my people and I want to help my people. Stop coveting your neighbor's goods. Your neighbor's goods is their karmic debt. Because if you have undefined traumas within yourself, they have undefined traumas within themselves. The energy that you are coveting, coveting is their karmic debt. A lot of times we come into that space. I want to help my people out. The best thing you can do is give them information. And once you have defined your information and your purpose and your soul purpose, that's when you get the charge. I'm having less and less conversations nowadays. Without a payment being attached. They ain't got nothing to do with ego. I'm having less and less conversations these days and more conversations that are attached to my value amount for a service. But to get to that stage to where I'm able to sit here, I had to first define the authority of the authentic self that is me. Remember, authority ain't got shit to do with control. Authority has nothing to do with control. Your power has nothing to do with control. Authority in your authentic self, in your authentic power, is all based upon the intimacy of you understanding and being in tune with your own power. That's authority. I am the authority of everything that is Godical Alchemist. I'm the authority that everything that is of Papa Lucifer in my environment, within my space. I'm the authority of it. It's not based on, and we're going to get all into this, it's not based on the need and want principle. I have ultimate love and compassion for everyone. Period. I have love and compassion for everyone because I first had to define that love is not based on need or want. This is where a lot of people, this is where a lot of us will get stifled in because we're basing our love based on needs and wants. You're not if you're basing your love on need and want, guess what you're going to get? You're only going to be looking at actions and words. You ain't never going to catch patterns. Actions and words. Man, we've been going at it for the last couple of weeks. Actions and words. If you're basing everything based on the quality, the quantity, that need and want structure, supply and demand, you're always going to find yourself in a state of imbalance. So you're always either going to be supplying more than you need to supply or demanding more. Or you're either going to be supplying more than you need to supply or demanding more than you actually have to supply. That's that you being stuck within that polarity, that pendulum swinging. Now, every time you go somewhere, you have your job for this purpose. You go at home for this purpose. You haven't learned. You needing these anchors. We've been going at anchors all week. Those aspects of these old anchors in order for you to get what you're needing, because you have not yet defined the aspect that's within inside of you. You're stuck in this narrative. A lot of people get stuck in this narrative. I've had conversations this week that blew my mind in the aspects of that blew my mind. I've had conversations this week that have blew my mind to the amount of not understanding the depths of the internal work with the inner child. Blew my fucking mind. That's the wondrous of that innocence being a child. Blows my mind every time I have a conversation with somebody when I'm breaking down the true aspects of that. And these are some and I don't deny them, they are some very intellectually sound individuals. They can name deities, they can name chakra systems, they can name the ohms, they can name all of these aspects. But when it comes time to the personal aspect, the internal aspect, they can't get that deep. And it wows me, but it doesn't bother me. That's going to be a key for your work. It wows me, but it doesn't bother me because I know my purpose. I know my purpose. My purpose is within limitless potential. I have limitless potential within my soul's purpose. My mindset is everything is within the aspects of that balance with yourself. Love is not based upon needs and wants. Love is based upon the value and the desire. When you base love on needs and wants, you have what you have now, this state of emergency with niggas and bitches and homeless chicks and homeless niggas, homeless chicks, and all this other calamity that's going on in the space. Because their instinct is still being, your natural instinct or your natural light or your natural energy is being filtered through something. You haven't defined what it's going through, so you feel the need to anchor to that. The truest aspect of not having fear of not being within this fear-like mindset is not going to be based upon the old narrative of I'm just being real. I don't fear shit. Because the moment that it's the simplest thing. My grandmother was always saying, my grandmother always told me, my grandmother saying it to me now, what you aren't, you never have to speak. So you never have to speak that you don't fear shit. Because the moment that you speak it is the moment that you're saying that's what it is. Because now you have to define whatever you speak. I'm at total peace. 99.9%, 99.8% of the time, I'm at peace. That leaves that little percentage to be open for everything else, for that little bit to come in. That's how much stuff does not faze me in the aspects of me loving and having compassion. When you have true compassion, this is when you build your boundaries. I'm always in a state of ultra instinct. Always in a state of ultra instinct. I'm in the state of ultra instinct. I'm moving outside of my emotions, and I'm moving outside of a barrier. I'm moving outside of that time spectrum. I'm moving outside of that. It doesn't matter in that space for yourself. When you start really doing that internal work, it really doesn't matter how much time it takes, because you're not looking at the aspect of time. You're not looking for the short term or the instantaneous. This is all about building your space. Everything that you're going to be doing once you step into that shadow, when you're doing your internal work, when you inside of your space, time don't exist. I went public with my works. I went public with my works and my craft this year. But I've been doing my craft and doing my works for a number of years. To myself, to others, as in that testing phase, and seeing, ooh, that shit works, and that shit does this, and that scientific method. So when things come up now in your instinct, in that instinct of you being open to the space, you being honest, you being self-aware, you being awakened, all you doing is sitting back and, damn, nigga, like, I'm already there. I was already there. That's what everything was that's what everything's been down here training you for. Like, we got motherfuckers got emotional when it came to conspiracy theories, and then if you're emotional, what controls your emotions? What is your master? So motherfuckers got emotional over the aspects of conspiracy theories and debates and debunking shit and talking down about the white man and religion and all of this shit. So their emotions got tied into that. So that became their master. So as much as you can say, fuck Jesus, nigga, you're Jesus. You're the Christos energy. So to say fuck Jesus is automatically would be what? You saying fuck yourself. You're still committing to the layer of the self-hatred to yourself, and you're wondering why. It's not going to be based upon that. We have to take ourselves out of this spectrum of thinking like, nigga, why am I still saying fuck Jesus when I'm the Christos? If I have the intellectual knowledge to know that Jesus is the Christos energy, or the Kundalini energy, or whatever you want to call it, to that space, whichever one you want to define it by, then how am I going to sit there in my space and be like, yo, fuck Jesus? He's destroying our people. No. No, he's not. No, he's not. What's destroying your people is ignorance. The byproduct of it, what's destroying your people are the byproducts. They're attached to the byproduct. The byproduct of ignorance is sin. Sin broken down into the simplest term is the lack of knowledge. So basically the lack of knowledge or the lack of applying the knowledge. Because you can have all the knowledge, but if you're not applying it, you're still going to move in an ignorant state. You're still going to do niggerish type shit. Because you're going to keep trying to attach to things to make yourself seem good. This state of attachment. Right now, a lot of people are in a state of detachment. A lot of people in that consciousness aspect, they're in a state of detachment. Because they have not defined what they're attached. They have not defined or took into the depth understanding of what they're detached from. So they can't find the connection. It's all in the aspects of the polarity. That polarity aspect, you being stuck in the polarity. Because in the polarity of to be detached, that means you are still attached to something. You have depressed yourself to be attached to something. Similar to when I was talking about the aspect of being independent. You're independent of something. I am in the attachment of something. I must now state and be stuck in this constant state of protagonist and antagonist. The pro and the con, the positive and the negative. I'm stuck within a polarity. The underline. That's the underline. When you're coming into your state, when you're coming into these higher states of yourself and you're starting to do this work for yourself and these symbolisms is coming up, some of y'all have been in cycles for a long period of time. Some of us have been in these in cycles a long period of time. And we haven't embraced our shadow yet. Because our shadow always comes up at the same points in time. Those same aspects of your shadow come up at the same points in time. They're going to come up as the friend, the family member, the job, all that other shit. They will keep coming up over and over and over and over again. Until you're like, why does this keep happening to me? I keep thinking positive thoughts and keep trying to look at the positive. I keep trying to look at the positive, not paying attention to the negative. Think about what you're telling yourself. There's an Alan Watts wrote, and there's an actual lecture. It's on YouTube. And Alan Watts was explaining to us the aspect of staying in a positive thought. Because if I stay within a positive thought, that means I would never acknowledge the negatives within my space. So I can't quantify that space because I'm not acknowledging the negatives that led me to looking for that positive. So if I'm looking for a good job and a good job comes up, it's always based on polarity. So they're going to give me what will seem negative to me will be positive to somebody else. If somebody said, yo, you got to have a bachelor's in this, you got to have certification in this, and this, those would be negatives to me going into that certain space. But to somebody else, it can be very fucking positive. It's the understanding of how that negative is going to serve you in that space, if that's where you need to be at that point in time. I've said it before. I spent 15, 16 years in the restaurant industry. Damn near 16 years in the restaurant industry. Ever since I was like 19, first restaurant job. Everything I did was based in the restaurant field. Everything I learned was basically in the restaurant field. The whole culture of my subconscious was based in the restaurant field. That's what fed my cult. That's what fed my subconscious. It doesn't matter if I was in the restaurant field, the automotive field, whatever retail field. If I was back to sell, if I was selling dope, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. That's only the external aspect. You still going to do the same shit and see the same shit that you would see within the restaurant field. I've used it. I've had conversations like restaurants are just like high school. Restaurants are just like high school in college, like high school and middle school. The same structure and the mindsets. I'm grown. I'm an adult. I'm going to express my individuality. You learning how to have sex with everybody and all this other shit, drugs, all that shit. Same shit. Similar to this DMT that I'm hitting right now. It's always going to be on that same platform. Whatever space that you're in, whatever you are experiencing, it's always going to go back to that nexus point of your discipline, how you're applying what you learn, your awareness, it's always going to flow back to the same synonymous line of thought. So it doesn't matter if tomorrow it doesn't matter if it was yesterday when I stopped working in restaurants, or this was the first, I said, yo, this is my first fucking lecture. It's what you learned based on the experiences within that space and how to apply it to your current state. I learned everything from promotions. Accounting, money management, time management, everything based in the aspects of the restaurants that I was in. I couldn't see those aspects that I learned from them spaces. I was in a constant state of like, they don't appreciate me. They don't gonna give me no raise. All of this dumb basic bullshit that was the byproduct of me trying to say that I needed that more than I was saying to myself unconsciously that I needed that for something. And I'm not saying quit your job. I'm not saying quit the job, whatever it is. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is wherever you're at, learn from that space. That's the reason that you keep going back there. That's going to be your underlying reason for going back there. When you change the mindset of why you're going into a certain space, you change the dynamics of what you're going to learn from that space. When I changed the dynamics of what I learned, when I changed the dynamics of why I was going into restaurants based on being accepted and trying to create this aspect for myself to aspire something, this predestination theory, when I changed that narrative in my mind, I saw everything in that space for what it was for. I could see the fear. I could see the inner children I can see inner children. My sixth sense kicked in, babe. Sixth sense kicked in in that term. I could see it. I could see it for exactly what it was. In the less that I saw through my ego, the more that I could see it in depth. That's why there's depth in everything. You just must not see it through your ego. Your ego thrives in suffering, struggle, oppression, being hurt, holding a grudge, staying in a state of imbalance with anger. In your soul, it thrives in sacrifice. Your soul thrives in sacrifice. Sacrificing and becoming more self-aware of imbalance with your emotion. When you feel like you're being pulled in all these different directions, it's showing you that your soul is split. So if you feel you got to go over here and deal with these people over here, and these people over here, and these people up here, and these people behind you, it's letting you know that your soul is split. It's letting you understand your soul is split. When you feel like you got to be everywhere, you got to pay attention to everything, you're only acknowledging to yourself that your soul has been split. And until you acknowledge that to yourself, you bring that into that acceptance, and you apologize and you forgive yourself for like, damn, nigga, I am running all over the place. Based on the knowledge that I have, you're going to start understanding there's no such thing as a fucking mistake. There's no such thing as mistakes. There's no such thing as fucking time. Everything's an illusion. We hear these things all of the time. But based on the intellectual factor of our knowing, what we thought that we know that we knew, we still try to build them from the old ass floorboards of our past, trying to build a new space. If I take up all the floorboards in my house and put up a wall, I'm gonna be sitting in the fucking mud. I'm in the dirt. I'm in the dirt. I'm in the sand. I'm in the grime. I'm in the putrid aspects of myself. I'm never gonna move anywhere. Here's the key. You're supposed to pull up them old fucking floorboards. Them floorboards are gonna be old floorboards. That old shit is what you're using to kindle to bring the aspects so you can work in your fucking laboratory, work in your lab. It's not meant for you to pick up them old floorboards and keep taking them with you. It's been past time for you to stop taking them old floorboards with you, that old doubt with you. It's time for you to sit there. If you keep getting triggered in the aspects of doubt, guilt, self-consciousness, it's time for you to sit there with it. Sit there in that space. That's why I keep coming up. You feeling like a standstill is something bad. Stop thinking of a stand. You in a standstill. You ain't able to go nowhere. You ain't made able to make no moves, and now you scared. What is the underlying reason that you are scared? It is not based on if I don't move, I don't eat. Remove the old narrative. Because it's only until you sit still that you actually can identify the culture, that hidden culture, that subconscious, and get that occult mind into effect. It's only when you're able to sit still that you're able to program your fucking day. That's the only way that you can quantify and use your ultra instinct and move throughout your day. Bring yourself into that new space. That's the only way that you're only going to be able to move into this new quantum field. You pushing against it. Now I don't want to do that. I'm still going to go over here. I'm going to go over there. That's fine. That's dandy. Whatever you feel that you need to do. But understand that for a Titan like me, my day is foreplay. My whole day is foreplay. Your whole day should become like foreplay. You're building something. What are you building? Why are you building it? That's the aspect that a creator thinks of. A dog can never be a human because it has the mind of a dog. A human can never be a god because it has the mind of a fucking human. It has an intellectual handicap. It depends on the human. It depends on that human thought in order to make it go through. You got to be honest with yourself. What things are you using to navigate yourself into the space of now? The next time you actually get to sit there, look at your environment. Look at your environment. This is going to teach you an aspect of compassion. This is going to give you the aspects of the polarity of caring and the aspects of compassion. For example, when I sit here in this space where I'm sitting at right now, behind me is a tapestry. In front of me is Ganesh. To the right of me is Buddha. To the left of me is my altar with my faith in my hands. Wall hanging joint. Everything in my space, I am in sync with. I'm in sync with it because I've defined myself in every aspect of what is around me. In defining everything is around me, I have love for everything that is around me because it is me. It serves a purpose, and I can maintain the purpose in the connection to it. And when it doesn't serve me a purpose and there's a disconnect, it's the outgrow. I've outgrown that status. I've outgrown what that is. In order for me to reconnect to it, that means it has to serve to a higher purpose. That means that's why I'll revisit it. When you stuck in this space of attachment and detaching, and you're detached from somebody because you don't like them, and then you start feeling this longing you start having them old feelings coming up because they were the plug or the stopper to you actually going into those emotions, then you want to go to attach to it again. That's when you know when you're in a state of attachment, because it's not providing any growth. It's providing this aspect of you being comfortable within being stagnant. There is nobody of my past that I have no reason to go back to. And everybody that is in my present state, my now state, they're based on connection. They're based on connection. They're based on the organic flow of connection. They're based in growth. Their mindset is on the frequency of growth. Their mindset is on the frequency of doing internal work. Their mindset is on that aspect. That is that in integrating the aspects of the soul and being in that divine aspect, that divine union with themselves and finding that divine union. That's the connection. If we have a disconnect, This is how you're able to tell if you're in a like that disconnect when it happens. True disconnect within the balance of the energy within yourself. You're gonna reach a point to where motherfuckers, you're gonna outgrow people, and the connection that you have with them is going to outgrow. And when they come back into the space with you, it's because they had to go learn some shit. That's always been the same feature over and over and over again. When people keep coming back around, it's because they're either one, searching for attachment, or two, they have connected to something that you have spoken or you've done, or they need to learn something. You got to take the emotional aspect out. You got to cut. I had to even stop doing that shit. Motherfuckers are in a constant state of being in this, like, it is a difference between like, that motherfucker fell all the way back to sleep, or going into this aspect of I just don't look at it the same anymore. Even to this thought process, me being in that higher state of my thought with myself over the last couple of weeks, to give us a gauge of this aspect. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been getting more channels and downloads about certain scriptures and certain things. And I'm like, yo, I need a deeper understanding of this. I need a deeper understanding of that. That's why it's still present in my life. I literally have zero hate, because hate, I would be stuck in a polarity of trying to find things to anchor my hate to. I have no hatred towards anything because I'm looking at everything based on the frequency, where its energy level is at, what it's supposed to be there for. I'm not looking at it based on color. I'm not looking at it based on color. I'm not looking, they're black, so they're automatically coming to the cookout, and they white, they can't come to the cookout. They're Asian. I don't give a fuck about none of that shit no more. That shit don't even fucking exist to me, because it's all based upon the learning aspect. I don't care what this person's human narrative is. If they bring some good information to the table that forces me to think, or keeps me in that state of my thought and stimulates that thought, I'm not rocking with them as the individual. I'm rocking with the information. I'm studying all. I'm staying true to my mantra. Study all and follow none. I literally study all and follow none. I sat here yesterday. Yesterday was Thursday. Yesterday. And I was done with my sessions. And I was done with sessions. Did all the readings I needed to do. Did the sessions. Set up appointments for next week. And I was sitting here and my cousin came through. He was like, turn on the TV. And I've been sitting here watching Black Ink Crew for like I watched Black Ink Crew all yesterday. 1 second. I was looking at Black Ink Crew all day yesterday, and I looked at it some today. And everything that I watch, we all get into that state where we're looking for the conspiracies within everything. You just read things, you see things differently. I have no attachment to the shit. So it's like I'm really sitting here looking at the characters. I'm looking at Caesar. I'm looking at Duchess. I'm looking at I'm looking at these characters, and I'm looking at them not from the spectrum of see, that this is what they always. Nowhere in my mind was this mindset of yo, that's what bringing black people down. They keep showing us this shit on TV. I'm not looking for no motherfucking person to blame. I'm literally looking at the show and I'm psychologically evaluating everybody on the damn show. I'm doing psychoanalysis. My craft, my works is based in psychoanalysis. So everything that I do will be based upon the natural terms. This is you defining once you define yourself and you know what you're looking at, you're not going to look at it based on a bias. Like I watched, for example, I watched the movie on Netflix. I watched that. I want to say, I think I watched it Wednesday. Outside the Wire. I watched Outside the Wire. I watched Outside the Wire. I saw the layers. I watched the layers of it, and I'm like, okay, cool, I can see this. But it was an interesting line. If you haven't seen the movie on Netflix, I'm about to give you a spoiler. But there's an aspect within it where in the beginning of the movie, when he first sees Captain Leo, he played by the nigga that plays the Falcon nigga from Avengers. And he was like, can you trust me? He showed him that he wasn't real. He was an illusion. He basically showed him he was an illusion. Can you trust? When he was saying, do you trust me? He's saying, do you trust yourself? Because as I'm looking through the train of thought through the whole movie, the whole aspect was about trusting himself, his thoughts, how he was going to move forward, and what he was going to do. Either he was going to commit to the same process, or he was going to change the narrative and take responsibility and do things that he needed to do for himself. That's one of the breakdowns that I got from the movie. Other people are breaking down the movie, talking about, the artificial intelligence is all around us, automatons, which is cool. That's what's there. But you have to go deeper than the surface that's going to keep you at a bias. All this information that you're bringing into your space, you're going deeper than the surface to remove the bias. This is how you start to tune your instinct of your intuition and everything that you're going into. Stop looking at this shit based on the emotional aspect. If I was still in a very unhealed state and I wasn't married to me, didn't love me, when I looked at these shows, just like when I looked at I love Sons of Anarchy because I was Jax. I was Jax for like a long aspect of my life. I was Jax. I was mainly I was Jax season 6. If you ever seen Sons of Anarchy, season 6, season 7, season 6, I was Jax. At the end of season 6, I was Jax. Nigga, fuck everybody. I'm killing everything. You killed the feminine aspect that was in my life to bring me balance. I'm killing everything. I'm killing everything until I bring balance back into myself. But as you're going through these spaces within yourself, and you're removing these layers within yourself, you're removing these filters, so your instinct, your natural instinct is going to be outside of the bias. My whole day is foreplay. From how I wake up is foreplay, because I'm intimate with myself. My intimate meditation with myself. Beginning of the day, I'm in the dark. When I go to the gym and I perform my gym alchemy inside of the gym, absorbing all that free energy in there and doing my workout. That's my intimacy. That's my foreplay with myself. All the way up until I drop a meditate and elevate between Monday and Thursday. I drop meditate and elevate. On a Monday after that, it's the podcast. Some of the most intimate aspects with myself. That's ultimate. You're coming to a space to be ultimately vulnerable. And the more vulnerable you are, the more power you realize that you have. Your power is going to be within your vulnerability. Your power ain't going to be based in control. Power is not based upon control. The authority and the authenticity of self is not based on the aspect of control. It's based upon the aspects of flow. Your flow is unconstricted. That's your power. That's the intimacy of the flow of your power. You're deserving. Remember, you're deserving of everything that you desire. Everything that you desire. You'll get it. But you got to define it first within inside of yourself. This old narrative of this old narrative of drop a bunch of information and then say, look within inside yourself is dead. Period. This old narrative of you got to look within inside yourself with the information is dead. Period. If you feel that you need, and it resonates that you need that assistance, then ask the fucking question. Be vulnerable. That's how the only way you're going to learn humility is by asking the question. The more humble you are with yourself and the less that you're looking through ego, the more that you're able to take in that information because it's supposed to make you upset. I had over 8 consultations this week. I had 8 consultations this week. 4 of the 8 consultations that I had this week were 2 brothers, 2 queens, 2 kings, and 2 queens. 2 guys, 2 goddesses, however you want to put them in that space. They were in their 50s. They were in their 50s. And never understood the true depths of aspects of internal work, internal child work, shadow work. I was in a whole state of wow. I'm like, yo, it makes more sense. The ones that are coming in and they're challenging this shit, those are the aspects of the older gods. Those are the older gods. I'm one of the older gods. I have a whole I am a whole entire ancient civilization of power. For last month, December 18th, I'll say this between December 18th to December 21st of 2011. 2011, because it's 2012 now. Of 2011, I had the most intense dream sequences of I was sitting in this great ass fucking space surrounded by books and records. Books that I've never read before a day in my life. I was reading motherfuckers Akashic records. I'm reading motherfuckers books of their lives. And I'm sitting there inside of that space. Come to this space right now, I'm having conversations that are kicking in or are taking me back to those aspects of those dreams, those visions, those dreams of reading these motherfuckers' records. Straight while I'm like, what the fuck? I've had a conversation with you before. I read about you already. Not telling him this, but I'm like, yo, we've had this conversation before. That's your quantum. That's you being in your instinct and in your purpose. The more that you're in your purpose, the more that you're working on yourself, the more that shit gonna make sense. You only can read up to so many books before you have to start applying information. This intellectual hold on, I'm gonna read this book over here and now I'm gonna regurgitate it. That's done with. What are you doing with the information? How are you applying that information? How are you using that? Remember, you're your own economic plan. I don't need an economic plan. I am my own economic plan. My economic plan goes into aspects of me understanding my emotional currency. If my emotional state is in balance, if I'm in a balanced state emotionally, then everything else, the byproducts, therefore, after 1926, Nikolai Tesla told you about Bitcoins, told us about cryptocurrency. If my energy is in balance and my energy is now flowing in the most positive state, then I ain't got to worry about shit else because everything else is going to flow within that space as it needs to come into that space. What the fuck am I worried about? For about 15 seconds to a minute, I'll say about 4 minutes. I had a thought. It hit my mind. I was like, should I be doing what I'm doing? I questioned myself for about 15 minutes. And I sat there with that thought, forced myself to sit my ass down and sit there with that thought. And I was looking at myself. I was like, where is this thought coming from? This is a feeling of trying to be accepted. This is a feeling of trying to be accepted. I'm feeling right now. Where is it coming from? Sat down with myself. I meditated on it. Sat there with myself. Flipping through some TV shows. I turned to one. I don't even remember the name of the TV. I don't remember what the fuck I was watching. But the dude in the show, he was talking about his father and trying to be accepted by his father. I'm like, why am I? I still had a bout with being accepted by my father somewhere. That's why I had that feeling. That's where that feeling stemmed from. Let me acknowledge this. Let me accept this. Where does this lead to? What does this mean for me? And I sat there with it. Wasn't no damn race. Ain't no such thing as time, so I didn't care. Because this becomes your truth to yourself. Would you rather not deal with an issue and then carry that undefined energy into anything else? That shit's over with. How many times have you done that in your life? Just really think about that. That you carried undefined energy, doubt, self-confidence issue, jealousy and insecurity. How many times have you carried that energy forward into a new space? It needs to feed. So now you got to look for something in that space for it to feed from. You got to feed your inner child. You got to feed the kid. We're going outside of this space of simply maintaining. I got a job. I got to get my bank account right. I got to get this right. I got to do this. That's simply aspects of maintaining the byproduct. Where's your substance? If at the end of your day, when you sit down with yourself, what did you learn? That's your substance. What did you learn? That is your substance. What did you let go of? That's where your substance is. Your substance is not going to be on the paycheck that you made at the end of the week. That's not substance. That's maintaining. That's maintaining the old aspects of your ego saying, we ain't struggling no more. We made it. I made it back in 2017. When I had the first initial thought of like, when I had that first thought of actually building on something. Actually building inside of something. That's going to be your first initial intention. Your effort is always going to be the reflection of your interest. Your efforts, you're always going to put your efforts into the reflections of your interest. My interest is in learning, teaching, being the student, growing, healing, and expanding. That's where my intent, that's where my interests are in. So my efforts will always be reflective of me learning, teaching, and following into this same narrative. Remember that 70-30 rule that I've talked about. That 70-30 aspect for myself. If I stay true to this formula, I can create multiple streams that will reflect my effort and my creations of me building inside of that space. But before I even got to that point, I had to first apply that formula to those traumas. Some traumas are going to be easier than others. Some events are going to be easier than others to knock out. But you still got to keep going. For a lot of people, they get into this space and they're like, okay, cool. I'm now conscious. That's all I got to do. You still have an underlying algorithm of the same shit that you thought about with Jesus. If I say that I'm saved, the same reason this motherfucker saying that they're delivered and they're saved is the same thought process when you motherfucker saying that you conscious, that you're woke, that you're a Moor, that you're a Mason, that you're a East, whatever the fuck it may be. The same polarity. Because just like the motherfucker feels like they're delivered and now that they're free, you're going to think that you're a Moor now that you're free. Polarity. You still stuck within the polarity. You still stuck within the scape. You ain't found the underlying yet. The underlying aspect. You just simply shifted from one state of things to another. And now you're going to use the same ideal logic of a delivered person of saying I'm still learning and God's still working with me is the same aspect as you sitting here saying that you conscious and you still saying I'm learning things and I'm not done yet and I'm learning, whatever it is. Have you taken any accountability and acknowledgement? It ain't about suppression. The state of consciousness at this moment and right now is the same state as the aspect of motherfuckers being delivered. You stuck in a state of suppression. You went from oppressing to being suppressed. So you're suppressing your energy in order to serve some narrative that don't even make fucking sense. I don't suppress none of my sexual energy. I take it to the highest point. My whole day foreplay. I don't suppress none of my urges. I remove the external vices that would lead me to anchoring to them to get off my urge, and I allow that urge to go to the highest point. That's why when sex is a sacred energy exchange, your energy is sacred. You still thinking on that linear aspect. You still thinking on that lower aspect. Sacred energy exchange, all energies within that synonymous algorithm of yourself. My energy is your sacred energy, you are energy. Therefore, you are energy. Therefore, it is sacred. Therefore, every time you exchange your energy, you're having sex. Therefore, every time you're having sex, you can't have sex. Just like back in the good old days when they said the marriage was not official until it was consummated. Think about you being in the space. Every time that you go into an argument, every time you go into something and you talking that shit, and you trying to have that argument with an individual, guess what you're doing? You consummating the union. This is why a lot of you are tied up in these soul ties that you locked in with certain individuals because you ain't defined your energy in that space. You keep going back to that same space to get you keep getting the same feel. So now every Friday, think about it, like Thursday through Sunday, motherfuckers are going out. You can't go out anymore. So now you got to understand, now you got to sit there with your own energy. Or you're going to be in a state of escapism, that pragmatic state of thought. Being in that pragmatic state of thought is what gets a lot of motherfuckers locked up based on the old belief and the old honor system that you have for yourself. I'm loyal. That old honor system of your loyalty. You loyal to outgrown thoughts and beliefs of yourself. That's no longer you. You scared to lose that personality. That personality is only a figment of your imagination based on you being within that space of being that individual at that time. That's one thing that I had to get rid of was the personality complex. Being stuck within this predestination based on my personality. For a long time unconsciously, I didn't give a fuck. Motherfucker called me an asshole. Motherfucker said something was wrong. That something is wrong with that nigga. That nigga look at you, and when he look at you, I remember the first time someone actually said, when you look at him in his eyes, it feels like he's looking into your soul. Before that, motherfucker said every time I look at him, every time I looked at him, it looked like I was judging them. Nigga, this is my face. I ain't judging nobody. It is. Some people can't even explain the look that was on my face. Every time I look at him, I can't explain that look that's on your face, but I don't like that look. I was making motherfuckers uncomfortable as hell. Just sitting there, standing there. As I define the energy over the last couple of weeks, I've been studying the aspects of hypnosis. The more and more I read on hypnosis, I've been doing that shit my entire time. The more and more that when I do pick up a book and I bring it into my space, I'm looking like, nigga, I've been doing that the entire time. Unconsciously, I've been doing it. Now I'm doing it consciously. Papa Lucifer speaks to your soul. In order to understand the conversation that I'm having with your soul, you got to adjust the volume on them other voices so you can have that, understand that concept, that conversation, exactly that intensity. You have to understand that people are only going to be able to look at you through the filters that they have not yet defined or looked at through them. That they're only going to be able to look at you through those old filters. But you got to be honest with yourself about what you need from the aspect of that filter, that love aspect. Because a lot of us are stuck in this love aspect based on that need and want and not looking at it based on value. My love is my love has no conditions. It's unconditional. It's fully compassionate, but it comes at a price. And I've done the work to set that price, to set that course of that price, that action within that price, that state, that local tax, all of that's within the price of the work that I've done to get to this point. You got to be able to stand firm in that shit. Remember, everything that you're doing, everything that you're going to do is naturally going to matriculate into every aspect of where it needs to go. That's why the internal work is so important. Until I did the internal work, I could not be sitting here. I cannot sit here. I could sit here in front of you, and we're going to get into that aspect. If I did not do my internal work, if I did not do the internal work, that means I did not work on myself, or I'm not working on myself, not acknowledging, not applying the information to myself. I would sit here for hours at a time, and I will always be talking about the white man is this, and this is this, and they keeping us from this, and they keeping us from that. I will always have that narrative within my space. If you've been this your first time listening to a lecture, or if you've been rocking with the lectures ever since I've started September 13th of 2019, when we started the Reaping lecture, in every opening of every lecture that I started with, from gatekeepers to entertaining your own death and all these aspects, the veil, the first thing I always say is, you're the gatekeeper. You're the succubus and you're the incubus. I always say it's you. Because it's you. That's me defining and giving you that stream of line that it's you. It's always been you. It ain't been nobody else but you. In the multiple reflections that you use to understand yourself. You as that God, you as that goddess, you as that titan, you as what you're trying to become into your space. Everything around you is a reflection for you to observe or experience in order for you to become further aligned with yourself. Sit still with yourself sometimes. Sit still. Learn yourself. Really get intimate with yourself. You've always had power. You've always had control. Sit with yourself for a little bit. I want you to sit with yourself. I start every session with a meditation and end it with a meditation because I'm going to put you in that space of disciplining yourself to sit with yourself. It's all about the discipline. I simply help you work with the tools that are already naturally within you. Any true healer, shaman, healer that you're going to go to, we're always based on the aspect to teach you how to use the tools that are already present. To teach you how to discipline yourself to use these tools that are already present. You'll never come to me and I'm never going to say, hey, yo, for $2,000, I can make that motherfucker go away. You'll never come to me for that aspect, period. Because that's below, that's beneath. That's earth realm. That's earthly shit. That's attachment shit. Because now if I do that for you, you're attached to me. So every time, since you're not acknowledging the shit that you need to work on, you always going to come to me for the service of getting rid of some shit that you did and lay it onto yourself. I'm about connections. I'm about you organically growing within yourself. I'm within you, looking within inside of yourself, having that nice cry within a space that you can feel totally vulnerable within. I'm about teaching you the aspects of being vulnerable to yourself. I ain't got nothing to do. I have no interest, no ulterior motive in that space. And that's you being in your instinct. That's you being in your true purpose. When you're in your purpose, it's limitless. You're not going to limit yourself to continue splitting yourself into separate entities. You're bringing yourself into a whole space. That shit with niggas right now talking about like Trump is out of office. Yay, okay, cool. Whether it don't matter who the fuck is in office. It doesn't matter who the fuck is in office. I have defined my sovereignty and my freedom. I build upon my sovereignty and my freedom within myself. Trump was in office during his last cycle. That's when I launched everything. Because unemployment checks was booming. Got a nice little $600 every week. I got a little more some weeks. And I invested it into building what I'm doing now. I built that new platform. I built that new foundation. I learned on that new foundation. That's going to be a key. Ain't no problem with you sitting there waiting for a stimulus check. But what are you going to do with it? Are you going to repeat a cycle or are you going to end cycles? Ain't nothing wrong with you sitting there having that conversation with that individual, that friend, family member, whatever it is. But are you going to be initiating ending a cycle or are you going to continue a cycle? Are you going to find yourself Saturday night, Monday, whatever night it is, and they talking about the same shit? And you sitting there with what? What are you doing? Like, what are you telling them? What are you saying to them? That fear narrative of like, I might hurt their feelings. It needs to be done. If not you, then who? That's why you in that position. You got that power. It's not going to be based on this, but the reason that some people do not like to speak on certain issues and certain topics is that fear based on that love of that need and that want. I refuse. I vowed to myself to always stand within my truth and always be open to learn. That stops assumptions. That stops the pressure of confusion. That stops the overthinking. That stops me trying to rationalize everybody in my life. No, I'm done with that aspect. You got a position defined by you. Your position in my life is not defined by me. It's defined by you. What you get from me will always be it will always be consistent. I'm consistent in evolution and growth. These are mantras that I speak to myself all the time. My mindset is based on growth and evolving. So everything that I do, at the core of everything that I do, is based on growth and evolving. Even if I drop a funny ass meme, it's based on growth and evolving. It always has growth and evolving at its core. That's the fun part of you being in your childlike state. Similar to when you listen to a little kid and they tell you exactly what the fuck it is. Something stink. Why are they fat? Why are they breathing so hard? Why they toes look like that? You can't say that to them. Why? They're only stating what is there. They have no filters. The worst thing that you can do in yourself right now with your inner child work is allow yourself to keep going through these aspects of these filters. Stop allowing yourself to be seen through a certain filter in order to sustain that space, because there's no substance in it. There's no substance within a projection, period. There's no sex. There's no aspect with you being within a projection and staying within that projective-like mindset and staying within those old aspects of the pragmatic, where you want to stay there and say, that's family. My mother lived down the street. I love my mother to death. The connection to my mother is based on the love. I had to remove those filters of attachment that made me think I still had to keep going to my mother. Because until I removed those filters of attachment, I would not learn the accountability and responsibility in parenting and disciplining myself. My pops been transitioned since 2003. I didn't know how much damage that caused until I actually sat there with it. And just in the factoid of how I had to go through the healing process, it let me understand what my purpose was. Your process of healing, that individual aspect of your path as you're going through your healing process, is going to lead you to your purpose, but you got to go through that process first. I would not be sitting here as a fucking healer, an occult psychologist, if I didn't go through those healing aspects. Because I wouldn't understand my purpose. I wouldn't understand my point. I'd be sitting there in a space like, nah, man, I'm still going to try to go do this. I'm going to try to go make that work. I'm going to constrict myself to go to that. I'm going to anchor myself to go through that. Because even though I might be angry, I might get sad, I might have an emotional trigger, might hit me, I know I might get paid at the end of the day. Fuck that shit. That shit will leave your ass in a fucking state of fucking stagnance. This state of stagnant that you see motherfuckers in right now. Motherfuckers is upset. Well, nigga, what are you going to do with it? What is your first rule? What is your first role of what you're going to do with whatever you're doing? Some of y'all repeat. You're going to start seeing motherfuckers repeating cycles that is fucking crazy to you right now. Some of you have already seen motherfuckers repeating shit that you're like, nigga, why would you still do that? Respect them for where they at. Respect them for what they are. Your instinct is to love automatically. Love them by love is going to be based upon respecting them for where they at. If they come to you and you give them information and you give them some fire ass information and they still decide to go the other way, respect them for going the other way. That's going to be the price. Somebody asks you for $20, somebody asks you for $50 and they avoid you, that's the price that you need to pay to see where they stood at. Respect them for that. You don't own anything. It's only when you stuck within these eyes of my money, my house, my car, my man, my chick, my this, my that, you'll never understand the aspects of the true internal aspect of yourself. When you stuck on my car, my house, my job, my whatever, my this, my career, my whatever it may be, you'll never be able to instill and align into your full potential. Because you're stuck on anchoring onto, I'm doing it for this, doing it for that, and doing it for this, or whatever it may be. As long as you're doing it for something else, you'll never do it for yourself. You'll always need something to drive you. You'll always need something to motivate you. I don't need no fucking motivation. I wake up great. I wake up ready to destroy shit. I wake up in the destroyer mindset. I wake up in the creative mindset. I don't need anything to give me that external drive. Now, when you get into this key of this narrative for yourself, that mantra for yourself, and you're deserving in the true aspects of the value of the desire of yourself, and you move outside of this narrative of I'm deserving based on a state of entitlement, that shit hit different. Your days start differently. Because if I'm deserving of peace, I'm going to start my day with peace. If I'm desiring of learning, I'm going to start my day off learning something with myself. If I'm desire of the quality of my abundance, I'm going to start my day off programming my abundance into myself. Whether it's me drinking a bottle of water and talking straight fucking player fly shit to myself while I'm drinking that bottle of water, or while I'm sitting there doing my workout and I'm sitting there taking in that bottle of water while I'm doing my workouts, that's how I program my day. The more that you start programming yourself in your aspects of your day to the true intent, and the things that come up, the triggers that come out to leave you at an imbalance, that are forcing you to bring it into balance, the better your day gonna become. The more you're able to embrace your day for what it is. The less you start having the less you start going in that predestination complex. But I wanted to do this by the time I was 40, and I wanted to do this by the time I was 50. Time don't exist. I'm 27 forever, and I'll be 37 next month. I'm 27 forever, and I'll be 36 next month. Three plus 6 is 9. 9 is the end of a cycle. 1 second. But yes, 3 plus 6 is 9. That's the end of a cycle for me. I'm at end of a cycle. Since I understand that I'm at the end of a cycle, I'm not going to wait until that day to address what I need to end now. That's you being in the preemptive aspect and not going into that's your aspect of using your that's you using your clairvoyance and training your clairvoyances, your clairs, your clairambience, your clairvoyances, and every aspect of your power and your energies. My ability to foresee is only based on how you look ahead. It's not going to be based on this, ooh, I can see ahead. I already knew that gift is already there. My clairvoyance is already online. My psychic abilities are already online. I wow people every fucking day. That's not something that, but when you're stuck, when your mindset's an attachment, you're going to try to use that as a parlor trick. That's the parlor trick. I'm not using my psychic abilities as a fucking parlor trick. How do I define how I connect to my higher energy of myself? I know that 3 plus 6 is 9. That's the end of a cycle. So what in this space needs to end? What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to end in my life at this moment in time? What do I need to refocus and channel my energy into now in moving forward? That's you moving forward. That's you defining that space. That's you coming into your ahs and your oohs. That's you coming into your awakening. This ain't based on anybody. Oh my God, but they said this and fuck them. But I knew them ever since. I knew them ever since we were kids. We were brothers. We were sisters. That's nice. They always gonna be where they at because you're always gonna be there. Did you ever think about that? The reason most people are where they are at is because you are at where you're at. You're in that polarity. The reason they're going to keep doing the shit that they're doing is because they know you're always going to come around and give them a loan of your energy. You're going to loan your energy to them. You're going to loan your energy, your currency to their karmic debt. You're going to loan it to them. And they're never going to pay you back because they can't pay you back. Because that price is way too fucking high. They're going to pay you back the only way that they can, so they never learn. So now when it's your turn to actually get some shit, man, why nobody can help me? This blame game bullshit, blaming shit outside of yourself. Man, every time I'm tired of helping people, because every time I help people, whenever I'm down and out, they can't help me. Nigga, they never learned how to help themselves. They never learned how to work for themselves. They always had you as a cop-out. You got to let these motherfuckers fall. Let them hit that bottom point. Let them hit the bottom. Let them have to think about some shit. That's all you're naturally doing. Remove the emotional aspect. Force them to think. They're going to be forced into a state to either think or further go down the fucking pipe. I know motherfuckers from high school. These motherfuckers is fucking drug addicts. They on the corner of 125th and 124th right the fuck now. Zombie land. They're in zombie land right now. Gone. Someone can look at me and be like, yo, man, you used to go to school? Y'all used to be real cool. Yeah. Man, you should really, why the fuck am I helping them out for? What am I going to help them achieve? I can give them some information. I can give them some knowledge. I can open up their mind to some new thoughts, but it's going to be up to them to apply it. This is when you start looking at these conversations that you're going to have all year. Conversations you're going to have all year going to be different. The way that you approaching things is going to be mad different. It ain't going to be the same shit that you were used to. You're going to be approaching shit a lot differently. Because it's no longer based on the complexes of the pragmatic aspect. Similar to motherfuckers right now, like I've been saying it through the whole lecture. My whole day is foreplay. My whole day is foreplay. I build within the aspects of being in foreplay. My whole day is sensual and exotic and erotic. My whole day is in the aspects of going into the taboo. Because that's the only way that I'm going to learn some shit. You did this shit unconsciously for fucking years. For years, months, days. Now you sitting in your state where you at right now, and you wondering why motherfuckers aren't adhering to plans or growing in any type of way. It's only because, I mean, that's where they at. Respect them for where they at. It took a long time for me to actually respect motherfuckers for where the fuck they at. It took a long time for me to really respect people for where the fuck they at. They're there because they need to learn something there. It's not up to me to sit there and be like, you need to learn this. You need to learn this. Don't care about that. When they're ready, the teacher appears. When they're ready, the student truly appears. So I ain't got nothing to worry about with that shit. Those cycles are over with. In order for me to move forward in a sound manner based into my purpose, I had to let go of a lot of those aspects, waiting for other individuals to catch up. One of the biggest things for me in my inner work and my shadow work was I always got stuck in a state when I was moving forward. I was waiting for motherfuckers to catch up. I was waiting for motherfuckers to catch on to what I was doing and slow down for other individuals. That shit's done. That shit is over with. Because if you're always waiting for something to catch up or come to that space with you, you are never going to move. Almost for certain, you'll never move. You're never going to move. You're never going to move forward. You're never going to step forward because you're waiting for somebody to, you have created you're chasing a phantom that's never going to do anything. You're chasing a phantom. You chasing that old ass relationship. You want your job to be the best job for you to make that money that you've been trying to make. It ain't going to do it. I'm not sorry to tell you that. It's not going to do it. You waiting for that relationship and that bond between your mother to get, you and your mother to get better, you and your sister to get better, your brother, your family members to get better. It's not going to get better. It's exactly where it needs to be at. What are you learning from it? You using that old played out defined definition or that old system of thought process in your mind, and that's what keeps you going into the space that you're going into. Every month you feel like you need to reinvent yourself for the state of being accepted. Every month you feel like you got to do something. You got to follow that same old cycle just to keep being accepted. You're not supposed to be accepted in that. You're going in this level of expectancy and you ain't really doing anything. And then you're going to be sitting here thinking to yourself like, God damn, nigga, it's already almost February. We're in a quantum we're in a quantum realm now. Ain't shit going to be the way you thought it was. This motherfucker's right now waiting for Valentine's Day. My core thought process about Valentine's Day has always been the same. Why would I wait until one time out of a year to anchor to? That means by definition, as long as I don't step over a certain line, I can do this much fucking up to that line. Because when it comes to this day right here, all I got to do is go all out on this day, and it erases everything that I did fucked up throughout the year up to that point. We got to take yourself out of this pragmatic thought process, this process in your mind where you think, like, okay, cool, I'm going to do all of this, and then in one day I'm going to cram. This ain't no cram session. This ain't no cram session. You not coming back here is not going to be no fucking cram session. That means when everything gets to that volatile point and you thinking to yourself, the same underlying thought that the motherfuckers think that did, the same underlying thought process that the motherfuckers think that they're delivered and all they got to do is accept Jesus is the same thing motherfuckers are doing within the consciousness. Within that conscious community aspect. They're sitting there in that space of like, all I have to do is say that I know thyself and that no, I know thyself and black power this and whatever it may be. And at the end, I'm not coming back here. At the end, I'm going to go to my next level. You're thinking the same way, you're thinking in the same way that the motherfucker saying that they're saved from something is doing. You're thinking the same exact way they're thinking. That's why they trigger you. That's why they upset you. That's why they get you emotional. Because y'all are both under the same ownership of the same emotion. You're still stuck with under the same old aspect of the whole aspect of the ego. I'm better now because I found Jesus. I'm better now because I know about myself in Isis and Oshun, and I prayed. When the fuck are you going to become it? When the fuck you gonna become the energy? That's the question you should be asking your fucking self. When you gonna become the fucking energy? Instead of you constantly being in a state of, I gotta make sure I brush those shoon hair, and I gotta make sure that I clean fucking Obatala shoe. Fuck you doing? You are the energy. That's you. That's why I keep coming up to you. You feel such a strong connection to Oshun. Maybe, bitch, you got to go through the process of killing off humanity so you can really become Oshun. Maybe you got to go through the process instead of you sitting there saying, I'm praying to Lucifer or I'm going to be a Satanist. Nigga, maybe you got to understand that Lucifer, first off, Lucifer, just like Osiris, just like most of the fucking energies that are now in the masculine pretense, the knowledge, or in the aspects of the spiritual epicenter, nigga, was the feminine principle. You'll never. It's like a motherfucker. You'll never gain access to this higher level energy if you sitting around here still thinking you still stuck in the old time of thought process of like, I can't stand a woman that don't wear her natural hair and all that bullshit. That shit don't fucking matter. Because you created everything, right? If I created everything, if I am the original, that means everything that has been created within that space is something that I created. I brought it into that realm for a reason. If I understand the reason of it, then I can use it to my maximum. I can use it to the maximum potential. There's no limit to it. So if I'm stuck on these older aspects, let me get stuck in this aspect of thought process that, yo, I only want black queens that wear their hair natural. The fuck does that mean? You attach to that thought process. So you mean to tell me that you will not sit there? So you mean to tell me that if some sister come up to you with Yaki number 6 in her head down to her ass, it can break down some information to you about understanding your natal chart, understanding your human design chart, understanding some deeper aspects within fucking alchemy or some fucking deep shit that you need to understand for yourself. That means you'll deny the higher aspects of yourself some information. You're a fucking idiot. You're an idiot to still use these illusional confines to make it so that's why you're not doing your work. Because at the end of the fucking day, it don't fucking matter. You still attached to some shit. I can't take nobody's. What the fuck does that mean? You have to take yourself out of this pragmatic way of thought. You still stuck on an image. You still stuck on the illusion. There's motherfuckers right now. I've watched on my Facebook page. I just sit back and observe shit. The same individuals talking about their divine. Some people are talking about they're divine. Nothing can touch them. They're untouchable. These are the same individuals that in the same breath will talk about the aspects of the vaccine being dangerous. Don't take the vaccine. Don't let them force you into taking the vaccine. Wait, you just said that your energy is above all of this and all of this shit, and your energy is higher than this and all of this, and nothing can touch you, but you're afraid of a fucking vaccine? What is the underline of why you're afraid of that vaccine? What is your reason for needing to bring awareness to this vaccine or whatever it may be in order for you to get into your space? You're using the same tactic in the same polarity that was used back in that same confine. The same conspiracy theory about concentration camps. All they had to do was plant that image into your mind. Bobby Hemmett said that shit. Plant the thought of concentration camps in your head, and you were scared about concentration camps. Now all they gotta do is plant the thought process about a vaccine and give you some information. Bill Gates buying up all the farmland and shit, and now you sitting there scared of that. Nigga, I thought you was a god. I thought you was a fucking creator. You ain't learned how to farm. You ain't learned how to do no farming yet. My neighbor under me grows tomatoes every fucking summer on his balcony. There's no more excuses. Period. There's no more fucking excuses. Either you gonna do your work or you not. Either you gonna go through the healing process or you not. There is no more of this. I'm not gonna go. I can't do this because that's an excuse. They know how your mind works and that you will self-create your prison just like, yes, exactly. That is exactly it. They already know everything because you gave them everything. It was already there. When you stuck in it, this is the thing. When you stuck within the constraints of time, when you stuck within that constraint of the aspects of that time narrative, you're going to be looking for things to come up at a certain point in time so you can prove yourself right. Seeking you shall find. Front of the Michael Jackson cover, that nigga holding a red cell phone. Leaning on the cover, got a red cell phone in his hand. In one of the album covers. This shit's already been there. So what are you going? You the programmer, you the creator, you brought that shit into that fucking space. You got to own up to your shit. You benefited from having the fucking trauma that's already happened. You not acknowledging, but motherfuckers are not acknowledging that they benefited from the trauma will always be in a false sense of entitlement. People that cannot admit that they gathered something from an aspect of a traumatic event will always have a false sense of entitlement. There's motherfuckers right now that are still upset about fucking slavery. And since they cannot go outside of emotion that you benefited from the shit, you have a false sense of entitlement. What does that create? The mirror aspect of the false sense of entitlement. So the same way that motherfuckers are sitting there talking about white people need to admit that they're admitted from our work. Nigga, you didn't do it. The same way that they're using it, you notice they're not moving from it. The most that they're going to tell you is something that you need to hear is forget about it. Let that shit go. Is the reason the same false sense of entitlement that they have is what you have. You just ain't defined it yet. You haven't defined what you deserve yet because you ain't built it into yourself. It's already there. You already had it. You want somebody, that's like me sitting here like that. I'm not going to sit here and wait for somebody to tell me that I can go. That's like me waiting to somebody to tell me that I can walk outside of my fucking house and go for a walk. I'll be sitting here waiting forever, waiting for someone to tell me I can go for a fucking walk out my own fucking house. That state of grandeur in your mind because you stuck on this mind, this ownership aspect. You are the essence of all things. You are the essence of all things. Therefore, you are within everything. If I know that I'm the essence of all things, and I apply the formula that I'm the essence of all things, that means I don't need to have ownership of anything. That means I don't need to have control over anything. That means all I have to do is work on the intimate aspects of the power within myself to align myself to what the fuck do I need next, or what is desired to be in my space next. I'm not sitting there waiting on, I'm not going to be sitting here waiting on that shit. I'm married to my fucking self. God of Co-Alchemist is my fucking environment. Papa Lucifer is my atom within that environment. Papa is the masculine aspect. Lucifer to that Lilith energy is the feminine aspect within my space. They define and move everything within my space. They can have anything within this fucking garden. Don't get attached to it. We connected to everything. Your power is connected to everything. But you got to do that. You got to remove these fucking filters. You have to remove the fucking filters. I'm telling you from the bottom of the aspect of the experience within myself, you have to remove those fucking filters. Until I remove those filters, I can't tell you to remove them fucking filters. I sit back and I think it was like, there was a point in time in my life where I was afraid to speak on the things that I had to speak on for the fear of losing something, losing access to something, losing a chance to be within something. There was a long period of time for me to be within that space. And until I accept it, until I acknowledge that within myself, I can never move forward. I was always stuck in a state of trying to make shit work for other people. Trying to keep my mother happy, trying to keep family, trying to keep my sisters happy, brother happy, friends happy, my job. I was trying to keep everything outside of me happy. Because I depended on that reflection or the projection of them being happy to sustain my body, to sustain where I was at. That true polarity to yourself. If I'm stuck in a state of being positive all the time, that means I'm trying to escape negatives. If I'm always stuck in a state of negative all the time, that means I'll always try to escape the positives. On either end, if I'm still only on one side or the other, that means I'm trying to escape something else from the other side. I'm trying to escape something. Until I bring myself into the state of balance, into that middle point, and gain honesty with yourself, you're always going to be trying to escape something. You're always going to be trying to put yourself in a state of trying to find yourself somewhere. I'm just trying to find myself. No, you're not. You're trying to escape from the truth of yourself. You ain't taking no accountability in your life. You got to be accountable in your life. This responsibility, the accountability, the ownership mentality, that LLC mentality. That LLC mentality. Just because you have an LLC mentality does not mean that you got to go quit your job tomorrow or quit a job or whatever. It don't mean that. That LLC mentality is going to be based upon you being unified with yourself. You've incorporated every aspect of yourself in that masculine and that feminine balances within inside of you through the aspects of your shadow work. Now you sitting there in that space, you're like, nigga, I'm unified within myself. I have no want or need. Therefore, no one can bring something to me and say, hey, you need this. Or, hey, would you like this? Nah, I don't need it. Because I'm basing my shit on my own fucking value. That's what they are scared of. That's what your ego is scared of. That's what every reflection that you created to sustain your ego is scared of. That's what it's scared of. That's what it's scared of. If you want to go further out there and be like, that's what the white man is scared of, that's what the white man's scared of. It's only a reflection of you. That's what your reflection is scared of. It's scared that you might clean that fucking mirror. That's what it's scared of. If you clean that mirror and see yourself what the fuck you are, that's what it's scared of. If you know how to move within the instinct of discernment and build your boundaries based on discernment, you'll be a fucking monster. You ain't worried about shit. Learn where you at. Embrace the learning where you at. Embrace how you need to move where you at. Embrace building within that space. Building your space based on the healing complex. Don't do this shit. Don't do this work based on I'm trying to get back at everybody else that said I was crazy. Said because you're going to find yourself attached to some shit. When it comes to doing the aspects of this energy work, some people don't even understand what's already attached to you. You got a lot of shit attached to you already. You got to adjust you got to adjust these filters within yourself. You got to bring yourself into that space for yourself and make yourself better. You got to sit there in that room sometimes by yourself. You come to me for a session, you are going to cry. You come to my session, you are going to laugh. You're going to cry. You're going to be angry. You're going to feel every single emotion. Guaranteed. If you do any work with me, if we start doing your shadow therapy, you are going to cry. You're going to be upset. You're going to be mad. You're going to feel all that shit. And I'm going to make sure you feel all of that shit because you need to feel all of it. Because we're going to define what you're feeling. Even if you do a reading with me, and I channel that energy and I bring that energy in, we are going to knock out a lot of shit. And that's only the beginning. I have two deeply trauma, people that have deeply rooted traumas right now that I've set up their appointments for next week. Deeply rooted traumas. I'm looking forward to that. One is a man, one is a god. He's 47 years of age and ain't never heard of fucking shadow work or the depths of shadow work. He can intellectualize it, but he didn't understand shadow work. The other one is a 45-year-old goddess. Never dealt with shadow work. Looked at one of my lives and was like, that is the shit I need to be working on. I never thought it was that deep. Gratitude at all times. Because that's what I've been sent here to fucking do. I'm not here to hold your hand. I'm not here to tell you that it's somebody else's fault. I've never been that individual. I've never been the individual that say, hey, that's their fault. It's their loss. Not on that server. I'm like, yo, it's their loss, but it's ultimately on you. I wouldn't say, and I had to work on defining how I would speak that type of narrative. How do you feel? Where is your worth? Where are you at? All this shit, like, I'm put it like this. The debate shit is over with. All that debating back and forth based on emotion, trying to prove a point, that's just over with. You're going to start seeing that decline. We've already started seeing that decline doing a lot of shit. Debates is just stupid. The fearmonger aspect, talking about white people and white people to stop you from making your money, that shit over with. If you're on Instagram, follow my man Derek. Follow these three individuals. These three motherfuckers on Instagram. If you follow me, these four individuals on Instagram. Derek Grace 2. Derek Grace the second. Derek Grace 2. Brother Ben X. 19 Keys. And Jacob Taylor. Jacob Taylor. I can't remember his name. Save my life. And then follow me, Papa Lucy Papa _ Lucy 666. This old narrative of this shit with we can't do anything, we'll never overcome because of this. That shit is done. Period. That shit does no longer exist. Take that shit out of your mind. And while you're pulling that out of your mind, everything that is connected to that, taking that out of your mind, that's what you need to look at. When you're letting go of things, that's what you're looking. That's going to be your path. If I had to sit here, I'll give you an example. If I was sitting here like, I'm plant-based now, so it don't even matter. If I was like, I got to let go of chicken wings. I've used this example before in lectures. If I gotta let go of chicken wings, as I'm letting go of me going to go search and go to try to go find chicken wings, I'm now going to pay attention to my emotions, my feelings, and my actions and the patterns that lead me to eat chicken wings. I only ate chicken wings at the pool hall, hanging around certain people, and doing certain shit. That's the only time I ate chicken wings. My next layer of, after I understood why chicken wings was the top point, the next layer was like why I ate at these certain points. The next layer that I got into to break the cycle was why I was around these certain areas. What emotions was I feeling to go to these certain places to go get my chicken wings, that pyramid system. Then I went down even further. What led to me into this space? Until the pyramids are not this way, that. They're a fucking diamond. So I had to go all the way down to this process. This is an example. I had to go all the way to the process of what taught me to eat chicken wings. This is an example to that aspect. We'll get even deeper. At the top tier where you at right now, you ain't never had a good relationship with anybody. All your relationships flop. They horrible as fuck. You got a baby father, baby mother, whatever it may be. You didn't switch sides both times or whatever. You didn't said fuck men, I'm going to women for a little bit. Then you said fuck women, I'm going back to men. And then some niggas, y'all won't admit the shit, but y'all didn't switched over to y'all niggas and shit. That's why y'all got that one super close homeboy, because y'all got a secret thing going on in that aspect of that space. Why the fuck my relationships ain't working? What is the constant within my relationships? The constant within my relationships is me. What about me is not helping these relationships flourish? Now you get to that next layer. The next layer is going to be a very superficial layer for you motherfuckers that a lot of people don't like to fucking get from under. I pay for things. I give them sex whenever. I do all of these things, and the relationship seem not to work. You trying to maintain the sustain and not the substance, baby girl. You trying to maintain the substance and not, bruh, you maintaining the wrong shit. All right, cool. Now you got that layer, that superficial layer, that surface. Now let's get deeper within it. What does the relationship with your male counterpart, your female counterpart represent? This is not just love interest. This is friendships. What does that friendship represent? What was the original start of that relationship? This is how you start tapping into your instincts. Your intuition's always been there. It's always been guiding you. Why do you keep going back into that same space over and over and over again? Why do you feel that you can't leave that space? It's usually something superficial. Man, we didn't have all these kids together. I ain't the same size that I was when I met this person. I done been through so much with them, I don't understand nothing else. All right, cool. What was your first? We going through these layers. You got to comb through these layers and being honest with yourself. What was your first example of a relationship? For a lot of people, for a lot of us, our first relationship, whether it showed us, whether it was with our mother or father or the relationship, me, I had a 2-parent household, shit was fucked up. I can admit that shit. My mother was passive aggressive and manipulative based on being passive aggressive. So what I learned from my mother was a state of being passive aggressive. My father, my pops in that space was he was always in this sense of being right and trying to, what he was actually doing outside of the emotional content was build a space. I remember the first time my father had a conversation with me about when he first met my mother and what he did for my mother's family. My pops did everything from teach these motherfuckers. He basically was like, he basically came in and brought them into the century of business because he always had the business mindset. So he did everything from teach these motherfuckers how to put phone lines into a business, build accounts, build contracts, and work with them in that space. They were not ready for that. They were just used to this motherfucker being there. After a certain while, that shit dwindled down. His bitterness was only based upon he was still doing into that space because going back further for him, he was still trying to make himself known and prove in the acceptance of my grandfather with transition. So the only reason he was doing what he was doing is because of what he was taught, where he stemmed from. So when it burnt down, he already knew that. He was like, you can't teach these country motherfuckers shit and all of this type of shit. He was still using aspects of the anger. My mother, on the other side of that, I never. One second. My mother and my father's households were both based on survival. My mother and my father's households, where they stem from, was based on survival. So in the space, when I came through, I learned the contract that I put together for myself, because I remember my contract through the Akashic Records, was going through the aspects of survival. That was the original contract that was put out there, based on survival. Learning the aspects of survival so I can learn the contrasted aspects of having love. So just that one thought in my mind, it destroyed every illusion. It destroyed every illusion of blaming something outside of me for the state of where I was at. This is the depth and the intensity of your shadow work. I no longer can sit here and I can do it, but it does no fucking good. I can simply blame that the crack epidemic killed the fucking black community. I can sit here and say that child support killed the black community and white people killed the black community and keep saying that shit over and over and over again. But in reality, I came through a contract based on having to learn these aspects in my space. I had to learn that shit. And the more horrid that it was, that means I had a higher purpose because it was more of a humbling factor. So that bullshit talking, that shit don't work no more. Being attached to such a narrative don't work no more. You ain't never gonna go nowhere. You ain't never gonna learn shit. You ain't never gonna fucking expect. You'll never expand past the old parameters, the old pragmatic thought based on that. That's your underline. You're getting back to your original contract. If you just coming online and shit, you understanding your original contract. Before you can even establish the new contract for yourself in the wholeness, before you can even establish your marriage certificate in the divine union of you got to understand the original contract that you came in here under. And you ain't going to do that by blaming everything. That's like I can sit here all fucking day and be like, yo, man, you know, them white people out there, man, they did all this to me, and white people did this to me, and white people did this to me. Okay, and At the end of the day, what the fuck does that mean? They're killing us. Okay, and they setting your ass free. They were gone too soon. Hurt. Hurt. Matter of fact, now I gotta go through all this. I sent a lot of y'all shit. All right, cool. We got it in there. You coming into this space for yourself is going to require, that's the aspects of when we coming into this space of the shadow work and how you're wanting to move forward, how you're wanting to grow, how you're wanting to embrace the aspects of you, the needed growth that you need to go through. When you're coming into this space, the things that you're going to be removing is the narrative of, but everybody's story not like mine. And everybody didn't go through what I went through. And everybody didn't do this, that, and the third. It's not the aspect of what you went through. It's not the aspect of the trauma that you went through. It is the fact that you want to acknowledge and now learn in the disciplines of why you went through said trauma. That is your process when you're doing your internal work. None of your shit that you're doing, everything that you're naturally going to be doing is going to be naturally separating you away from every attachment. This is why when we say family, friends, all of that shit, them niggas ain't going to be the same. Because you're going to start realizing that your family, and it's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, but your family is only related to you based upon your karmic debt. Your friends are only based to you. Your original friends that you come into it before you go through your healing process, they're only based to you based on your karmic debt. They're your karmic family. They're your karmic friends. That's why some of your friends are damn near like sisters, and some of your friends is like brothers, and other friends are damn near like your fucking kid. You got to treat them like your son or your daughter. It's because they're based on your karmic lineage of your past life. All of these lives that you came through in the cycle of where you at right now. That's why they keep coming up. I had fucking friends that were damn near like fucking sons to me or brothers to me, but it was all in the understanding. For me, for an aspect, I'll give you an example. I've been here 6 cycles. 7 cycles is my cycle of creation. This is my last cycle. I'm creating my cycle out of here. That's why I'm in a lot of cycles of ending and building. I'm creating in this space right now. This cycle is my cycle of creation. My first 3 cycles, I think I talked about this last week. My first 3 cycles, my first cycle, I was in the fairy realm. I was in the fairy shit with the fairies and the dwarves and all that good shit. I had 2 sons. In my second one, I had a son and a daughter. No, I had 2 daughters. And in my last one, I had a son and a daughter. These are my 3 cycles. In these 3 cycles, my first son was a Scorpio, which is my north node. No, this is my rising. My second son was a Leo, which is my moon sign. So in this space and time, I understand like their components based on that life. When I look back and I go back and I stream back into that aspect of my records and I'm looking at my interfacing with them, I'm only interfacing based on once I get past the emotional aspect, once you get past the emotional aspect, you see the process for what it is within that space. Now I look at my son My sons in that first life, one being my Leo as of now, my Leo or my current state in my continuum now, in my now state, is my subconscious, was my subconscious mind. So now I can go back and I can look at every motherfucker that I met that was a Leo were all aspects of my subconscious mind. So when I think about Leo, when you think about a Leo being outstandish, wanting to be up to the forefront, every time I saw them, I was triggered by Leos in my life. It was letting me know that I need to bring my subconscious to the forefront. Shit that I needed to deal with in my subconscious. This is how we start understanding these triggers. My North Node being my rising being Scorpio, the passion in the aspect of me doing that work. My North Node being Gemini. Third life cycle, daughter was a Gemini. So the Gemini is the aspects of me understanding the balances of my for me in gender, masculine, feminine aspects of myself, and bringing those into that union through the aspects of the unifying my sacred energy, which would be what I need to be doing now. Stepping past the aspects of the Sagittarius. All of these aspects all of these things are what you're learning about yourself on that deeper intent of the level for you. You're not doing any of this work. You're not doing any of this work to sit here and remain the fucking same. Ain't nothing wrong with being a Leo. Ain't nothing wrong with being a Leo. But like everything that you're doing is you're now challenging yourself to go beyond that point. Because in that, I realized like in the healing process, I can sit here and be like, yo, I'm an Aquarius and this, that, and the third, and Aquarius is this, that, and that. And I can be attached to that narrative. But my main key is to understand that I am the 13th sign. I'm the 13th in that 1 and 3, that 4 aspect. That's me. I'm all of these aspects. I have to learn how to bring all of these together within myself, within my purpose and where I'm at. My subconscious work was fucking deep as hell. Because there's going to be certain things that are going to start coming up that you didn't even know were there, and you didn't think they were insignificant. Some of the most insignificant shit that happened in your life is the most important shit that you got to pay attention to. I want you to think about this. Take the stream of how many relationships that you had. What was the most dominant sign in most of your relationships? That was the one that was supposed to be teaching you some shit. For me being an Aquarius, being around me, you gonna learn detachment. You gonna learn detachment from me. I'm damn near detached. I'm always in a state of detachment. I'm not connected to any. I'm not a part of anything. You'll learn detachment from me. You'll learn solitude. You'll learn rebellion. You'll learn some very intellectual facts from me. I had to embrace that aspect for myself because at one point in time in my life, I was scared to show my intelligence, or what actually was my intellectual aspect. I was scared I was in fear of showing that. I already was seen as fucking crazy. For a long period of time, both of my eyes blinked because I'm also a twin, but my brother didn't make it. I ate my brother in the womb. So I had the chimera aspect. So like if anybody looked at me back in my past, like my eyes would blink differently. Like if I blinked like a fucking chameleon or a lizard, my eyes would blink separately because I was separated within myself. It wasn't until I want to say 6 years ago, I was called out on it by one of my homegirls. Like, why the fuck why your eyes blink like that? They blink separately. I was like, it's involuntary. I didn't realize that was my signal for me being separated. I was in both different spaces. Yeah, the story of my twin, my grandmother told me. My grandmother told me when I was 6. No, she told me when I was 6 or 7. 6 or 7. She broke down the story of like, I had a dream about you being born. I had a vision or a dream about you being born, and you ate your brother in the womb. You've always had a strong, and now that I actually think about it, my grandmother used to play with always had a deck of playing cards. And like she used to like tell fortunes with the playing cards. I didn't know every time I had a conversation with my grandmother when I was little, she always had the cards and she was like laying the cards out and like talking. I wasn't putting 2 to 2 together because I was still in 2 different aspects of my mind. But like when I go back, when I remember having conversation when I started channeling my grandmother and going back, I'd be like, she'd be like, look down. Like I'd be in the channel, listening to talking to my grandmother. I'd be looking down. She'd be like, instead of looking at me talk, look down. Look at my hands. I kept having hand dreams. She was like, look down. And like she was explaining my life in the cards. She'd be explaining my entire life in the cards. I'd be like, she's legit explaining my life in these fucking cards. And as I started looking at these cards more and more, the more and more I started revisiting this space with her, I'm like, couple weeks later, I bought my first tarot deck. Couple weeks later, bought my first tarot deck. I was like, nigga, this is me. What you gonna start noticing for yourself in your spaces, you've always had this instinct to do what you're doing. But you gotta remove the parameters in that pragmatic thought. That's going to be the most important part of you moving forward, going forward, period. Enjoying the show that is playing out in front of you. Enjoying what's playing out in front of you. Throughout these weeks, you're going to be becoming more and more intimate with yourself. This is your year of the intimacy with yourself. If you got to sit there, if you are the next, like I've been giving out that couple of times on my Facebook page, I've been giving out like, yo, hug yourself for about 10 minutes. Just hug yourself for 10 minutes. Take in some deep breaths and hug yourself for 10 minutes. Say you love yourself. Tell you love yourself. Say the reason that you love yourself. Give yourself a good 10 minutes holding yourself for 10 minutes. Change your fucking life. This is the intimacy with your power. Power ain't got, we have been constantly trained in this thought process that power is based on control, authority is based on control, and that narrative. Power ain't got shit to do with control. It got everything to do with flow. Authority ain't got nothing to do with control. It got everything with the authenticity within yourself. Your best self that is based on discernment and not based on the trauma. You got to stop basing your life on the trauma, because the trauma activates that ego, and the ego is based on struggle, that struggle and that lack mindset. I got to keep doing this because I don't want to go back to doing that. If we had more money when we were little, if my dad, you could have that aspect. I used to have this thought in my mind. I was like, yo, if my pops had more money, maybe him and my mother would be together. My mother didn't fuck with my pops because of his whole lifestyle was something scary to her. My pops was Poppy. My father was Poppy. You had to go get something to sniff from. He was Poppy. That lifestyle scared the shit out of her. So she ran back down here. And she reconnected with my father. With Pop. And they came together. She wasn't ready for that level of that survival within that space. She was a timid church girl, timid little church, little Christian Baptist woman from fucking North Carolina. She wasn't ready for that life. I can't hold that against her. I'd be a fucking fool. That's foolish to hold that against her. She made that decision based on coming from the survival complex. So therefore, my decision to hold on to that very thought, it will be based upon my survival complex. That means I'll be sitting there in my mindset like, yo, hating on my mom because of that. Hating on my... After a while, you just like, why? And then you'll start understanding the filters that you put into place. I've said it before about the filter I gave to my mother. Like, I had a need for something from her. And the main mindset that I always have, like, the least she could do for what she did to me, the least that they can do because what they did to me. Think of how stupid, think of how childish you sound. The childish imprint within the narrative of your mind. Now, everything you're doing is based on they owe me something. They owe me something. I have a false sense of entitlement. Does that sound familiar? What's the underline that keeps triggering it? Now you sitting here trying to define white privilege versus your shit. They got white privilege. They can do whatever the fuck they want. They need to accept that they got a privilege. That they living out their shit through the shit that we did before. You doing the same shit. You did it. You doing it too. It'd be February soon, Black History Month. Motherfuckers gonna walk around and be like, had a dream and slaves and shit and all that shit. I didn't have motherfuckers putting up all the information about Martin Luther King's other life. And motherfuckers getting mad, upset. I didn't know it was fucking Martin Luther King's birthday Monday. I think it was like last Monday or this Monday. I didn't know that until I got to the fucking store. And they were like, nigga, it's a holiday today. I was like, what holiday? It's Martin Luther King Jr. birthday. I was like, oh, that shit don't fucking equate to me anymore. I'm not in that space. I have more things to fucking think about and better things to fucking do with my day. Stop putting yourself in this mindset where you feel that you have to, if you feel that you constantly have to defend yourself, you have work to do. If you feel you constantly got to defend yourself, you have work to do. If you feel that you have to recognize and react to every trigger that's hitting you, somebody saying some shit to you, you still have some work to do. It's okay to accept that you have work to do, but you got to work on it. You have to acknowledge it and be aware, like, yo, the only reason that they're able to do that because they know an aspect of me, that a personality in me that still must exist. Because they're able to use it. They're able to use my old personality against me. Motherfuckers can't get me mad about half the shit I used to get upset about. Motherfuckers can't get me sad about that same shit, about half the shit I used to be sad about. They can invoke the trigger so I can be aware of it, but there's certain shit that just don't, it's like, okay, all right, whatever. That's you being in your balance. That's you coming to this space based on balance. I'm not looking at things. You have to stop looking at these things based on that short-term goal and that short-term process of mind. That's going to be your major key in you stepping into your higher aspects of yourself. This is not going to be based on, as I said, the earlier aspect. We're going to get into that now. That state of feeling that you're in a state of deliverance because you're conscious. I'm conscious. I'm woke. I'm awake. I have knowledge of self. You sound just like the motherfucker that said they were saved by Jesus yesterday. You sound just like the motherfucker that said they were saved by, they discovered Islam yesterday. You sound just like the Morris motherfucker that's gonna sit there and tell you need to go get that paperwork. You sound just like the motherfucker. You sound just like them. That's why they trigger you. Now you're in that polarity. Everything that you're doing down here is based on duality. You got to understand that everything down here is based on duality. Period. Everything down here is on duality. So it's, both aspects are going to be needed in order for you to learn the middle point. That's why Bobby Hemmett always said, why the fuck you want to be? Don't try to be a part of anything. Be a part of yourself. Because if you go all the way from Mount Zion Baptist Church to now you are a Hebrew Israelite, you didn't change. You didn't evolve. You didn't change. You didn't do anything. You just shifted off some shit. Therefore, your instincts are still going to be in question. Your intuition is still going to be in question. You just went from, in reality, you just went from hating the white man in secret to hating the white man in public. But you still need the white man or that reflection for you to stay in your space. That state of deliverance. I have what the fuck? I've been getting the channels I've been getting channels of the aspects of the Bible all fucking week. Because when you understand this process, as you change and invoke the changes and invoke and evolve, everything in the past and everything in your future moves in a synonymous motion. It all moves in that same motion. So that means if I heal in my present now state, the excuses or the conduits that kept others from evolving and getting past certain traumas, I have now redefined that line, that timeline, because I put my understanding into that timeline. It's not based on you healed yourself, so now I'm going to heal back everybody else. No. In your now state, you are becoming the example of what it is to go through the healing process. That line by line, that channel by channel, that gate by gate. You're defining the new aptitude. You're finding the aspects of your human. You're finding the aspects of your balance naturally within yourself, within that divine union, that divine unification of yourself. So naturally, when individuals come into your space, friend, family, whatever it may be, when it comes into your space, guess what's going to happen? They got to come to that new set of rules that you have now set. You have now become the dark or become the light or become the balance. You become those scales. You become Anubis. You're becoming Anubis. Now, when they come to you, you're weighing them against their heart against the feather. That's now your role. You're now that gatekeeper. You're now at that fucking crossroads. You're now Baron Somni. You're now at that crossroad. When they come to that space, you'll know when they're going to come to that space, and it's going to be a giant test for you, because it was a giant test for me. It's a giant test for motherfuckers that are really doing their work, because every emotion that you ever thought that you threw away is going to come back up. You're going to feel that sense of doubt. You're going to feel that sense of anger. You're going to feel that shit. You're going to feel it. You're going to feel it. And you're going to be sitting there and be like, am I really ready for this? Exactly. Yes, exactly. Am I really ready for this? Am I really what I claim to be? Am I really a healer? Am I really a shaman? This is my test. These people that are coming around me that have known me for years And now they see me in the new space. That's my test. Even when you're gravitating into your new information and you got that new sense of yourself, I'm a goddess. I'm a god. It's going to be tested by the people that are going to come around you in the first aspects of your environment. I'm talking to anybody I'm giving this to anybody that need that work. Papa Lucifer speaking to your soul. That's all we doing. Now you're going to sit there in that space and you're going to sit there and question everything that you done built up to that point. I know because I did this shit. I questioned everything up to this, not to this point in this present state, but I literally questioned everything in the state of where I was at. I came to a point. Every time you're always the peaks that you're going to reach. That's what I'm getting into now. The peaks that you are going to reach, you always have a choice when you reach that peak. Go back, listen to Vibrations Peak, the podcast episode of Vibrations Peak. You have a choice when you reach this peak. Either you are going to say, fuck it, I'm going back. I'm going to climb back down this mountain, or I'm going to jump off of this mountain. You got one or two choices. Either I'm going to jump off of this summit, either I'm going to jump off at this summit, or I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go all the way back. That's always going to be your decision. The more that you're going deeper inside of yourself, the less physical and the more mental it shall become. That's the first. These are your first waves of your enlightenment. It's going to go from a bunch of physical shit. That means physical aspects. Job going to change. You're going to want to go change your clothes. You're going to want to go change your clothes and how you dress and all that good shit. I'm proud of myself that I did not go through that weird ass phase when I wanted to go wear kente cloth and all that. I didn't go through that. I went through that phase, but I surpassed that phase. Like the deepest that I got into was like, okay, cool. I bought my Ankh and I was wearing certain phases that you're going to go through. You have to go through that phase. So you're going to go through this phase where you feel like you want to wear all African clothing. You're going to go through that phase. Ride it. Go through it. You might pick up some shit. For me, I said, fuck it. And I went a little bit deeper. I was like, I've always been in the collective aspects of creation. So I created Occult Alchemy. That's my clothing. That's the clothing and merchandise. And I created Occult Alchemy. So it's what you're doing while you're investing within that space. None of this shit none of this stuff you're not meant to get attached to. You're supposed to build your connection into it. Your connection based on your understanding within inside of it. So if you like the aspects of the fashion with it, then maybe you might want to create that might be your first stream of understanding your energy in your space. You're not meant to. There's so many people. This is when people get stuck in these aspects of like everybody wants to be a reader. Everybody wants to sell beads. Everybody wants to sell this. Everybody wants to do this. Me being the rebellious manifested generator that I am, I was like, what sticks out to me the most? Shadow work, inner child work, inner child healing. Those are the things that mainly stuck out to me. So what did I do? I studied all and followed none and did the research. And I looked and I was like, there's not a lot of motherfuckers actually going into this aspect. And the ones that are going into it, they're not it's not a depth to it, into the build of it. There's not the necessary shock factor that's needed to reactivate, to bring that state of the trauma with the shock factor. Why does this feel so right to me? Kept doing the work. Now I do what I do now. Your mother's not your mother. Your father's not your father. Your sister's not your sister. Your brother's not your brother. Your uncle's not your uncle. They're nothing of what you thought they were within this space. So this is going to take you into that deep space of why they did what they did to you and why it was only traumatic to you in this life. Why it was only traumatic to you in this life. They held a different position in a past cycle for you. That's why it gave a shock value to you when they did it in this life. But you ain't going to learn that aspect. You ain't going to learn this aspect based on the emotional. And I'm letting you know this now. You're not going to get that aspect based on the emotional aspect. You look at it based on that emotional, the emotional feature, you're going to be mad forever. You're going to be upset forever. You're going to be upset forever. I would sit here and be upset forever if I still held my mother to the same regard that I held. I would be upset with my mother right now if I held it to the same regards because I created a phantom for her, a phantom relationship of what I thought my mother should be. And since I created this phantom, or I created this shadow based on what I was rooted in, based on my lack of confidence in myself, based on the aspect of how I channeled my power, going through the chakras, that was the troubles that were on my heart. So I spoke, I saw, and I created through that. And I crowned myself as being I crowned myself as my mom stole from me. I crowned myself, my mama hurt me. I crowned myself, I made those the jewels in my crown. So since those were the jewels in my crown, I had to have things around me or subject matter that fit the aspects of that with that of what I wore as my crown. So I had the friends, I had the girlfriends and the friends and the job aspects. I had all of these things created in my space that only can be sustained based on me anchoring myself to that same narrative. So I had that false sense of entitlement in every relationship. No matter how big or how small it was, I had a false sense of entitlement in all of my relationships. I had a false sense of entitlement in everything that I was doing because I was going back and still using that same anchor that my mom did something dirty to me when I was 5, lied to me all these damn years. So I'm still using that aspect in my life. So my instinct and my intuition was this is how your intuition is going to work based on your ego trying to feed itself. When I felt something was wrong inside of a relationship, it was my time to detach and self-sabotage. When I had the anxiety that this person was getting too close, that was my trigger for self-sabotage. Whenever somebody was getting too close to me in the aspects of my feelings, that was my trigger for self-sabotage. I was in a constant state of, this person left me, separation anxieties. You're building from this developmental stage of whatever age it happened. So at age 12, that's when everything went downhill for me. So at age 12, my emotional development stopped at age 12. Though I grew physically and I grew somewhat in intellectual aspects of the mentalities, my emotions were stuck in the development of age 12. So my instincts, my intuition, all of my power goes to the strongest point, negative or positive. So if I want to invoke my power, which is a positive aspect, if I want to invoke my energy, no, it's like a motherfucker. If I want to invoke my energy in that aspect of where I'm coming to, guess where it's going to lead to? Guess where it's going to go to? The strongest point within me. My strongest negative point was in my emotional development. So, of course, when my intuition kicks in, it's going to go back to the emotional development to feed from. Man, I don't feel right about them motherfuckers over there. It was augmented. This is when you're understanding why that healing process is so important. This is why you understand why letting go of shit is so important. Because until you start letting go and you start really dissecting and really doing that work, your power is never going to be at its maximum point. It's always going to be in one, it's going to be in one system, energy system of chakra, underbalanced, and then another one is going to be overbalanced. Another one ain't even going to light the fuck up. So you're going to be bypassing shit. So this is when you got motherfuckers out here talking about they heartless, they heart chakra ain't activated. When you got motherfuckers trying to be too polite, or they're either too polite or they're too rash, it's because their throat chakra isn't, their throat chakra is out of alignment. When you're trying to tell people certain things to make them see a certain way and they can't see it, their third eye ain't online. Those are the reflections and aspects of you. You trying to make somebody see something like you, no one can see what you see. No one can embrace what you embrace because it's meant only for you to see it at that space, at that point. Even when we get into this like-minded mindset. What are ways, let me read this. What are ways you can access blocked memories to get those strongest points? By starting with small situations and working deeper. You actually answered your question within the question. The main key to starting to access those blocked memories is through stages of meditation that I do whenever. For example, when doing a session with me, we're gonna take you back into that memory process. Even before I do shadow work, before we do any mirror work, before we do anything of that nature, we lay everything out in the present now. So it's about acknowledging the present state of now, where you are at now, and acknowledging those things that are triggering you now. From this now point, because remember, the past, the present, and the future are all in the same continuum. From acknowledging this now point, such as, let's say, for example, let's use an example. We read the energy in the space. Let's say, for example, let's say you had an uncle that was too friendly. An uncle touched you when you were little. In your current state of events, based on some of these streams, it would be like you have this aspect of an uncle that gave you candy and baited you. Now, in this current state, in your correspondence to it, you'll be in a space where you need control based on money, some type of control of something in order because you're activating that past memory. So you're still streaming from it. When you understand your current state, you understand what you're anchored to. So going into that process for that simple to go deeper, it would be really finding the pattern, looking at the most common pattern in your life right now. That would be like, why do I always seem to do this and it always ends up here? That common pattern is going to be that golden strand to start working back into that aspect of meditating on it. And we do the meditation, we do the hypnotherapy, do that inner shadow work, that inner work to unlocking that aspect. First by acknowledgement, then we get into the aspect of acknowledging it, get into the aspect of you accepting it, and getting into the aspect of you forgiving yourself for it. Because them deeply blocked memories, what I've learned is those deeply blocked memories for a lot of us are repressed we repress it under symbolism. We'll use symbols to repress it. For example, for me, my pops, when I was 5, said I was fat. I'm like, nigga, I'm 5. This is baby fat, nigga. I ain't learned how to eat yet. He said I was fat when I was 5. That triggered me into the aspects of external health. So from about 6, I remember I was 5, I was about to turn 6. I remember at 6 years of age, during my summers, I was outside running in the backyard trying to do workouts. I remember looking at, I don't know if anybody remembers like the community channel. You know, I had the community channel where they did all like the workout channel. I remember sitting in my room like early in the morning when them shits would come on, and I'd be sitting there trying to do all the workouts, yoga and Pilates, all that shit. I know what the fuck I was doing, but what I was doing was creating this. I was creating these new symbols and filters to block out that memory. So I'm creating these filters and these symbols to block out that memory. But until I was able to acknowledge why I was always in this state of trying to be healthy on an external state, I could never become healthy. I couldn't commit. I could not be consistent in my workouts. I'm consistent as hell in my workouts now. Because 3 years ago, when I got consistent, when I couldn't break the consistency, I had to go back to that point of like when my pops called me when I was fat, when I was like 5. But like, this is the aspect. I don't want to give out the too in-depth because like, I want to be able to build in that because I don't know your personal situation. So I'm giving you that overall aspect, but it's going to take removing these aspects of these filters so you can get deeper. Everything leads back to an original point of a repressed memory. You can be having a dream. Like, let's say, for example, you had a dream where, I don't know, let's say you have a dream about a football game or whatever it may be, some simple shit. That dream is going to be telling you where you need to go. You're paying attention to your dreams because the main key to getting back into those repressed memories is looking at this point now. Why do I always seem to fuck up with men? Or why do I always seem to have these fucked up relationships with women? Before you go to bed, ask yourself that question. Why do I keep having messed up relationships with women? Why do I keep having fucked up relationships with men? You ask yourself this question, lay back, focus on that question, focus on that thought. As you start it's a process. As you start focusing on that thought and going into this state of yourself, everything is going to start coming up that matches that. Smells, this is where your senses are coming on. Smells, taste, sights, feelings, shivers, all of this shit going to start coming up. Touches, all that shit's going to start coming up. Allow yourself to feel all of this as you go back into that space. With me, with a guided meditation, that's what I take you back. I take you back through that. I take you through the steps of that space. Go back into that space. That whole dreamscape, whatever you were, as you wake up, first thing you do when you wake up is sit there for about 5 minutes, giving y'all some secrets. Sit there for about 5 minutes like this. Just sit there for about 5-10 minutes. Good minutes to yourself. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Just sit there with your eyes closed and recall recall the dream. Start recalling the dream. Recall the dream. As things become more clear in that memory aspect, write it down. You're going to keep going through this process until you're able to formulate the story of that dream. You might have multiple dreams, but as long as you're using that same question process, every dream is connected to that same thought process. So that's when you're writing down this is similar to automatic thought. And you're actually using automatic thought. You're writing everything down. If you want to challenge yourself, write everything down with your eyes closed. You don't need to look at the paper to write anything down. You know your ABCs. Write everything down. Look at it. Study it. That's you going into your memory bank. That's the Akashic. That's actually going back into your past life memory aspect. What were we talking about? 1 second, I get a bottle of water. 1 second as I get a bottle of water. to fetch a pail of water, But the main key for Ashanti's question is taking it by the step by step. It's going to be mainly by going to the step by step and getting into yourself by, exactly as she said, by starting small. You don't want to, what you don't want to do is overload yourself. This is the biggest key when it comes into this healing work. When we're doing healing sessions, when we're doing this therapy sessions with you, I'm doing a therapy session with you. The biggest point for you is not to rush this process. This is outside of that realm of that time. So don't think that you're going to sit here in 3 sessions with me and you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm healed. No. Don't think that it's going to take 10 sessions. Don't think about, okay, it's going to be 10 sessions and then I'm going to be healed. No. It's an ongoing process, because even after we've done the initial work, because what I do is basically the initiation process of the initial work. We get deeper as we go ahead, but what we have to do first is initiate the beginning process. I'm not looking at anybody else's work that they've done to you. I'm not looking at anybody else's work or saying like, oh, you went to this person or you went to that person. None of that ain't got nothing to do with what we're doing in this space right now. Because what we're doing, what we have to do is we're taking you out of a space of further biases. We're taking you out of the pragmatic mindset. Well, this person said this, and this person said this, and this person said this, and this person did this, and this person gave me a bath, and this person gave me this ritual, and this person said they did this. I'm here to center your energy. I'm here to bring you back to a center point. So what everybody else did is naturally going to fall away anyway. The strongest aspects of what they do, okay. But what we're doing over here is a totally different process. Ooh, it actually stopped. Oh my goodness. What was I doing? Yes. As usual, at this point in time, this is the question and answer period. We do the question and answers. Question and answer period. I'm doing something special. I'm trying to do something different. This is readings. Doing readings. We do the readings within the question and answer period. Doing the question and answer. Whatever questions you may have. Ain't got to be about the lecture. Similar to Ashanti's question or Nagasi's question, have we reached the peak? Which is, yes, we have reached the peak, but it's your decision. I answer that. Like, you're at a space right now when you're at a peak right now where it's like, what are you about to do next? Whatever you wanted to find within this space is what is most important to you. Doing this internal work is the most important aspect of what you're doing. Everything else around it is going to be a reflection of that. Your effort is going to be a reflection of your interest. If your interest is in healing, then everything, your efforts will be put into will be reflections of your healing. If your interest is to struggle or to break away, or if your interest is in struggle or oppression or that narrative, hatred and all that shit, then your efforts will be in the reflections of the people, the places, the things, the ideas, Everywhere you do, your environment will be a reflection of your struggle, what you're struggling with. So ask yourself right now, what are you struggling with? Be honest with yourself. That's going to be a key, being honest with yourself. But yeah, as I said before, I'm waiting. Okay, cool. But while you guys, I'm doing the aspects, I'm doing the we're doing readings. Readings by donation. Nice little general readings. Nothing too like nice general energy readings. Doing them live. If you're familiar with me doing the God Hour show on Tuesdays. Doing that aspect. Any deeper aspects of work, you can set up a consultation with me. You can set up a consultation appointment with me. Set up a consultation. You can inbox me. You can put it in the comments. We can set that up. I'm putting the number in the. I'm putting the number up here as well, because I never put the number up in here, and when I do, I forget. There we go. Boom. There's the number. If you're interested within deep services, doing a build on things, on working on aspects, hit the number, send the text. Phone lines is open. Ta-da! All right, cool. As I just set an appointment. The major key for yourself in your works, in you growing, in you becoming the best aspect of you, is going to be in balancing the aspects of your energy. Understanding that this is no longer that old shit ain't gonna fly no more for you. That old mindset, the old mentalities that got you where you at right now, they're not really gonna work no more. They've been stopped working. The old way that you used to approach things is not gonna work anymore. This is gonna be a very big moment for for that aspect of you really tapping into the aspects of yourself. You're at a point, we're at a final peak where there's going to be a lot of separation. There's going to be a lot of separation. What you're seeing right now it's already been in the works for a long period of time. And the main thing where you're going to see when we're thinking about, people talk about the spiritual war that's going on among us, is going to be based upon the old paradigm versus the new paradigm. I am a part of the new paradigm. A lot of old concepts have become redundant, not in the aspects of study and scholarship, but in the aspects of how they're being used. There is no more. Bobby Hemmett said it way, way back in the day. There is no more of this. I'm going to channel or summon this energy. It's going to be about becoming that aspect of that energy. And the only way to become that energy is it's always going to lead back to that shadow work. That dream relationship that you're dreaming of, shadow work, is going to give you that best relationship with yourself. That dream job that you're looking for, shadow work, is going to be based in the aspects of shadow work to get you that dream job. That's the work you need to do. That vehicle, that car, that house, that dream, all that shit that you're dreaming about and you desire, it's all in that dark ass room that you may be scared to go into. Don't be scared to go in there. Don't be scared to expand yourself. I want you to be the fucking best. I think I'm going to hit us with a little bit of that. I'm going to do a nice little collective reading real quick. I'm doing reading tonight. We're doing the readings by donation. So like whatever you feel in that aspect, nice. We're doing general readings, general 5 cards. So whatever you feel like you want to donate to that aspect of a reading online for that. When you become that energy, how do you decide when to unbecome it? That's a good question. My best way to answer that, whenever you become whatever energy it is, the best way to decide to unbecome it is when you're deciding to go into a higher level of energy. Once you start embracing these higher aspects of yourself, remember, just like meditation leads to astral projection. Meditation leads to astral projection. So I'm in a constant state of meditation. So when I go to sleep, every time I lay down, I'm automatically astral projecting. Astral projection, once I've mastered astral projection in that level, now it's okay, cool. Let me start mastering remote viewing in those aspects. Everything that you're doing is supposed to be exceeded by another level. So before I took on, for example, the archetype of energies of my channel these aspects for myself, I had to go through the Buddha energy. And then after I was done with the interface of becoming Buddha, I became Ganesh energy because I was in that stage of my life, in that stage of that phase to understand the interface with that energy. Once that energy became in sync with me, so it was in place where it needed to be. I did the work with it. I became those higher level energies. As you're doing your work, go based on the feeling of the truth in yourself. Because certain energies that you're going to interface with when you're becoming it, it's only based for a certain space. Like certain people, I basically put it on whatever you're working with. Like, for example, if you want to work with the Damien archetypes of energies like Asmodeus or Baal or any of these energies like that, depending on what you want to work with, like Asmodeus, geometry, music, creativity, energies of that nature. So you want to work with that energy, you'll invoke the Asmodeus energy. If you want to work with music or anything of that nature, you're going to work with the Pan energy. Pan energy is going to open up the Pantheon to Prince, open up the energy to the entertainers of that aspect. Whatever energy you're working with, when you're becoming the aspects of the interfacing with this energy, you have to have that preset within yourself of why you're working with that energy. It's not going to be based on, like, when people, the old way of working with energy was like, if I want to make $1 million, if I want to make a couple dollars, I'm gonna work with Oshun, I'm gonna go do this ritual. Now you're becoming the interface to align yourself, because the energy that comes up to you, like for me, Lucifer, Baron Samni, Papa Legba, Mama Brigitte, Ganesh, these energies that came into the energies I first started working with, a lot of these energies were old aspects of my parent, like my grandmothers, my aunts, my uncles, cousins, individuals that already passed. They were the physical representation in this timeline of that said energy. So a lot of energy that I worked with in the beginning, like my grandmother energy, my grandmother's Mama Brigitte, all day. She was Mama Brigitte energy in the younger state, and as she evolved, she was more Oya and more yin and yang energy because of everything with her birth date and everything to that color. She was more yin and yang because of the gold colors and being in May and all of those energies. So when I was working with my grandmother, until I fully defined her to release herself, that's why for that space, when we work with that energy and becoming it, I became interfaced with this energy to understand the aspects where my grandmother was coming through. It's all going to be based upon that aspect of the feeling. So it's like, for example, my cousin Jesse, he's Shango energy. He's like energy of the Shango archetype in that pantheon. So working with Shango energy at a point in time to understand my cousin in the channel that he was coming through on, understanding the Shango energy, understanding the anger archetype, that warrior energy, until he no longer came through on that, and I became that Shango energy. That becoming the energy for a certain aspect when you're doing ancestral work is to release that ancestor or that spirit so they don't recycle back. Like my grandmother's not coming back here. My cousins, certain cousins are not coming back here. They saying, nigga, we were stuck and all that shit. I had to become that energy to usher them on. This is also another important point of you healing your lineage because it's doing a counteract effect. Remember that as above, so below. As you're healing yourself in the now, you're healing that lineage of the ancestors that came before you. That's why it stopped with you. You're doing this work so you can actually unlock that aspect of that gate of that energy to take you into that higher space. Because the worst thing for a lot of people when they work with energy, they get so comfortable with it, they work with it. The longer that you work with an energy, it's a thin line between becoming and worshiping. There's a thin line between becoming and worshiping this energy. Thin line. Very, very, very thin line. At one second, you think that you're sitting here and you becoming it and you embracing the energy of a dark goddess into that aspect. And in the next 5 seconds, you find yourself worshiping the motherfucking shit. Go based on that aspect of the feeling. Set that definition of what you're working with, why you're using it, what it is coming to you for in order to do that deeper work. That's what I wanted to say. The end of this month, stay tuned. Like on my Facebook, on my Instagram, I'm gonna start putting up the information for the God Occult Alchemist book club and secret society, where questions like questions that I just answered, those like we're gonna be getting into the book study of certain information that we're not gonna get anywhere else. It's time for that. It's time to make that truly I'm moving into that truly esoteric aspect of like the chosen few are going to invest into that space. It's where we can build into. What was I about to say? Yeah, that was that. But yeah, and become the energy that you're going to become makes you have a clear definition of why you're becoming said energy, why you're working with it, have clear intent, create the space of clear intent in your mind and in your space of whatever energy you're working with, and have your setting for when you're going to end working with that energy. That way you don't become bogged down or you start worshiping that deity, or you go from nigga, I'm Isis to you worshiping Isis, or nigga, I'm Oshun, and then to worshiping Oshun. Worst thing that can happen is you start and you really don't have an intent. That's what happens with most people when they work with energy. They don't have a clear intent of what they're doing with it. So then they get stuck with that energy on them, using them for certain aspects. Because the energy will do that against you. There are counterfeit motherfuckers. There are counterfeit energies, spirits, and entities that connect to the energy. Oh, shit, that tasted good. I'm drinking too much water too fast. But yes, I hope I answered everybody's questions. Y'all still got questions, you still can throw them out. I'm gonna do a nice little collective reading real quick. If you're interested and you have other questions or you want to do that aspect of the question, setting up for services, consultations, number is 910-777-7708. You follow me on Facebook at Rock Hall Onijas. Hit me in the inbox. Follow me on Instagram at Papa_Lucy666. That's the Instagram joint. Hit me in the DM. Go to the website, GoticoAlchemistLLC.com. Everything's within the description of this lecture. And we can build. No problem. Much gratitude. I love that interaction, because in you guys asking me these questions, it actually helps me tune to the next aspect of what I need to build in. But yeah, I'm gonna do a nice little general reading. If you are interested in a reading, these are readings by donations, nice general readings. If you want another deeper aspect of readings, from the general energy reading to past life reading, to get into those depths of that, hit the number, hit the website, hit the inboxes, hit the inbox, hit the DMs, set that appointment up. Still have openings. I have openings after 2:30 now for today. Let me see. Answering multiple questions at the same time. All right, that's there. Cool, we got that now. Oh, battery been dying the entire time. All right, cool. But yes, all right, let me do this reading real quick. Feeling the energy, I can feel it in your voice. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh. 10 of Cups. Ace of Wands. 10 of Swords. 3 of Wands. And the Magician are the cards that we shall go through today and illustrating this energy. As I'm reading the energy within the space, the 10 of Cups represents the element of water. So that flow. So I'm looking at the energy within this space right now. It's the end of the old flow. For some, it's going to be the end of the way that things used to flow to you, or that for some, I'm feeling having that sense that you had a sense of constricting in the way things have been flowing to you. For some of you, there's been an overwhelm of that constriction of flow coming to you. Now you're at the end of this cycle where you've been questioning the flow of the events. You've been questioning a lot of shit in your space. You've been questioning a lot of things. If they're supposed to be a certain way, how it's supposed to be, how it's supposed to work out. You've been questioning that for a while now. You're at the end of that. It's the done. You're done with that. The end of the way that things, the end of the way that you used to think things used to work and they were flowing. It's done and over with. You've come to the end of that cycle. Allow that shit to wash out. Right now, you're having a big washout. You're coming into a clear space. You're in that new space. It's been all that other stuff is clearing out. Allow it to clear out. That's going to go into the aspects. The Ace of Wands is illustrating to us standing firm in your new space in the new decisions for yourself. Standing firm in the new scape for yourself. That new energy that you're in. You're in a new place. You're in a new mindset, whether it's the idea or the physical place, or you're going to that physical space. You're now in that space. That new opportunity that you've been looking for. The opportunities that are going to be coming to you on that 10 of Wands, the things that have been holding you back, you felt like you were being held down, you were being cut down in that certain space you couldn't grow. All of that shit's done with. All that shit's now come to the cycle of an end. You're no longer at that. You're no longer going to be at that space. If you're feeling that you're in that space right now, the 10 of Wands illustrates that cutting down motion, cutting yourself to fit into certain spaces, cutting yourself down, feeling like things are cutting you up, feeling that cutting motion that you feel like you got to cut yourself out of shit and you're cutting yourself down, you're shrinking yourself. All of that energy is done with. You're now in a new space. It's by that 3 of Wands. When I look at the 3 of Wands, it illustrates the aspects of facing. And the only way not to repeat these old cycles of the way you used to float through things, that means friends and family and that family member, that friend that keep getting on your fucking nerves and just keep doing dumb shit. The way that she used to keep you flowing in that state of going down, that it kept you in that state of being weighted down and being cut up, and you were cutting yourself short. The 3 of Wands represents you facing that. And the 3 of Wands, when I look, the 3 of Wands in my reflection aspect, and you going forward, it's celebrating that inner monologue that you got to have with yourself. Some of y'all need to have an inner monologue with yourself. The aspects of your past and the aspects of your present need to be discussed. That in order for you to step into that future sense, to be able to use the aspects of that Magician card, to use the aspects of that, to tap into your new magic, your new energy, you have to be able to celebrate where you just came from. You got to be able to celebrate what you just overcame. You have to be able to celebrate what you're overcoming now in this certain current state. You're in a current state. You like, man, but I did this, and this, and what about this? The 10 of Swords represents those loose ends they're cut loose. There's no more loose ends. In order for you to embrace into this state of the now, in order to embrace this state of the now, you have to speak forward. You have to have that conversation. It's been time for you to have that conversation with yourself. Now I'm just reading energy in the room. It's been time for you to have that conversation. It's been time for you to have that sit down with yourself and discuss, yo, this is what we're doing now. I'm in this space right now. I'm in this mindset. I'm in this new mindset. I have this idea. I'm in this new thought form. I have this new plan. Now it's time for me to start building this space and creating. Remember that 70-30? If this is your first time in, I've talked about that 70-30 rule before. Now I have to start creating my intent, creating based on my intent. Creating based on my intent, based on my new discernment and my new boundaries. The old shit ain't gonna fly no more. That old, you get mad, you get upset, you shut down, ain't gonna work no more. Because all that's gonna do is reactivate those old cycles. And feeling like you gotta go hit somebody in the mouth, ain't gonna work no more. Because all it's gonna do is open up those old cycles. If you are right now in your space and you feeling like you feeling triggered, to keep doing the same shit, you need to address that underline. I need you to get to that. I need you to get to that underlying motion. What started it? If you keep getting hurt right now, you in a state of being hurt right now, who was the first person who hurt you? I'm always going to lead you back to that. Who was the first person that hurt you? Who was the first person to put you into that state of being hurt? Address that. Bring it to the surface. It's time to talk about it. It's time to deal with it. That's what I'm here for. Papa, Lucifer, GodicalAlchemistLLC.com. The number is 910-777-7708. Schedule that consultation. Schedule that reading, that consultation. Let's get this work done. I want you to be the fucking best. I desire you to be the best. I desire you to exceed all expectations and tap into your limitless potential. Yeah. I love you all. I love you. Appreciate the support coming into tonight, listening. Share, subscribe. Let the knowledge do what it's supposed to do. It's 121. Y'all know this is like, if anybody's seen that, it's like the 21st year of the 21st century. Tap into this energy. Be the fucking best. I might do. Nah, we're not doing that. And yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I said everything with that. Stay tuned for Godical Alchemist, the Occult Alchemist book club. Stay tuned for the Secret Society and book club. Yeah, everything's done. Be the fucking best. Allow yourself to fucking grow. Everything gonna lead back to that shadow work. You might as well start doing it. You got one or two choices: heal or repeat. I love you. We love us. Ashe.